It kind of is. Yeah, he's like he has charisma. Just seeing him at a bar. So yeah, tonight's episode is about David Koresh and the Waco siege. I'm gonna do a little disclaimer that like no one really knows exactly for sure what happened. Um, there's parties on both sides that say the other side is at fault.
Yeah.
People say they can't hear you.
Yeah, I fixed it. All I was just saying was
All
that this
right,
dude rocked.
cool,
That's
cool.
it. He
Um,
does. But yeah, you're right. And it's gonna be something that's never gonna be known.
right, yeah, no one can really know who fired the first shot or what started the fire for sure.
Yes.
But David Koresh is not a good guy. He's not a hero. But I would also argue that the ATF and the FBI handled the entire operation terribly, and the actions of both sides led to what ended up happening.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna dive into like David Koresh's life a little bit, and then mostly about the cult. I believe that Far Cry 5, the villain in that, is modeled after him,
I thought so.
and is also maybe some Jim Jones thrown in there as well.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think part of the reason that it was handled so poorly was well, there's two big reasons. The ATF needed a win because they had been taking some losses and weren't looked at favorably by the public leading up to it.
No.
So they needed to be heroes. And the other part is that their training, like they were going into it thinking that David Koresh and the Branch Davidians were like Jim Jones. And I think Heaven's Gate might have been right before this.
I thought
And
so.
both of those were like actual suicide cults.
Let me see.
And like in Jim Jones's case, like people loved him to a degree, but then he kind of like held them at the compound against their will, and like there's audio. Like people did not drink the cyanide willingly in a lot of cases. There was a lot of murder that also went on there. And I think that yeah, they were thinking that these guys were like that, but these guys had a few major differences. Like they were um they weren't really isolated. Like yeah, they had their like private stuff, but like the compound was in a fairly populated area. There were other houses nearby. People were welcome to go on the grounds. They ran a gun store. You could go there and shoot guns with them. They were like licensed to buy and like, assemble firearms. Uh and like the members were free to go at any time as far as we know. Like they went into town. David Koresh played music at local bars. Like he had friends in the community. Like it wasn't the same as other cults.
No, it was very different. Because the thing about the music thing is like he had a schedule and everything. People knew where he was gonna be and stuff. He did essentially like tours around the town. Um, yeah, and
I
yeah,
think
because
they
it
were
was
fairly well liked. Like
they
not like
were.
people were a little suspicious. Like it's weird to have a group of people that think that their leader is Jesus, but I think like they got along fairly well with the community.
Yes, compare that to cults like Rajneeshpuram or Rajneeshpuram, if you're familiar with that one. Like those dudes
I
tried
think
to
I
annex a
am.
city, so that's a little
Yeah, yeah,
different.
they took over and like shut down all opposition. I think the Waco people generally left people alone.
Usually. And I did confirm this. Heaven's Gate took place a couple years after Waco.
Okay. So
It
it
was
was
Ruby Ridge.
definitely heavily influenced by Jim Jones. I know that much. I th- was Ruby Ridge. Ruby Ridge was after, I
No, Ruby
think.
Ridge, I believe, was before
Oh,
the
Ruby
Waco,
Ridge was before. Okay,
and
so
that's where the L came from.
That's why the ATF was looking for a big victory to make people forget what happened at Ruby Ridge. And
Which,
wow, that happened first really makes this like way worse even because like Ruby Ridge was another one that like they handled real bad.
yes. And
Oh my god, the Anthale family cult that's disgusting.
I don't
That's
know
like
anything about
way
them.
worse. Way worse.
Let's see. Is that what the most disturbing episode of X-Files was based on? That one?
Could be.
You know which one I'm talking about?
I don't.
It's
I'm
called
familiar with
Home.
X-Files, but
When you get the chance, watch the episode
watch it.
Home from X-Files.
All
It's
right.
the most disturbing episode. And here's the thing: is it has nothing to do with the supernatural,
Okay.
and it's their worst
Yeah, they did
episode.
some real bad shit. They were like the family from Resident Evil.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what the Anthill gang
That's
was.
cool.
It's fucked up. But yeah, so we can play this.
This first
This
one.
is like a little bit of David Koresh's history to just start us off here.
Now, I wanted to add something else to what you were saying about doing this one. That's a little bit of a change of pace in us because we usually cover lolcows, but M. Bode and I were talking about this, and it's kind of a weird thing to say, but stuff like this might be a refreshing break from time to time because
Yeah.
even though this
Talk
shit is
about terrible
horrible,
tragedies to
yeah,
refresh everyone.
at least we're not looking at Daniel Larson's penis. You know, it's you got to take a break from that kind of stuff.
That is true. You don't see anyone's dick in this. That's good.
This guy might show his.
Messiah who looked like a rock star. A mesmerizing personality and passionate Bible knowledge combined to allow him to gain ascendancy over a small group of followers, to manipulate them, use them for his sexual desires, and prepare them for his own version of Armageddon.
Right. I used to watch this channel all the time.
Oh yeah.
I get tired of this guy, the host, though. Something about the way he talks, it was kind of annoying. I kind of wish he wouldn't talk. Just show me the stuff.
Vernon Wayne Howell, the child who would
it's
become
fine.
David Koresh, was born on August the 17th, 1959 in Houston, Texas. His mother, Bonnie Clark, was just 14 at the time, while his father, carpenter Bobby Howell, was a 20-year-old drifter who abandoned his pregnant girlfriend when another girl caught his eye.
Little
Bonnie
shadow,
soon
that's the
took up with
DSP
a man
call.
who was a violent drunk. They were married, with the union lasting for just 2 years. They proved to be tortuous years for the infant, who would often recall in later life how his stepfather mistreated him. When the marriage was dissolved, Vernon was taken in by his maternal grandmother, Elaine Clark. He grew into a likable but mischievous child who was highly active. In fact, he was given the nickname Sputnik due to his boundless energy in recognition of the Soviet satellite. By age 6, Vernon was
He looked
taken
like
back
it?
in with his mother. Bonnie had
don't
just
know
married
about
a
all
man
that.
by the name of Roy Haldeman. When he moved in with his mother, she was pregnant again, and in 1966 she gave birth to Vernon's younger brother, Roger. Vernon struggled
Yeah,
in school,
how about
unable
that? You're
to
the
keep
brother
up in
of
elementary
Jesus.
school to the extent that he was placed in a remedial class. The other kids in his school soon had a nickname for him. Mr. Retardo. Years later, Vernon recalls the effect that this ostracism had on his self-esteem.
Man, kids were brutal back in the day. Holy
Oh
shit.
yeah. Well, that was Leonardo DiCaprio was called Leonardo Retardo in school too.
Yeah. We also had Leonardo decapitated. We had that sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, here comes the retarded kids, and it's like I stopped in my tracks. It is believed that one of the main reasons that Vernon struggled academically
Quiet,
was that he
please.
suffered from dyslexia, a condition which was little recognized at the
Don't
time.
call the puppy
he was
that.
also a stutterer. It was clear, however, that the boy wasn't stupid. He had a natural mechanical ability and loved nothing more than pulling gadgets apart and putting them back together again. By the time he
nerd.
was a preteen, Vernon's affinity with mechanics had morphed into a love for cars. It also led him, in a roundabout way, to music. Finding an abandoned broken guitar in a barn, he fixed it up and began teaching himself to play.
Oh, hot damn. I want to hear a heavy metal synth version
Vernon's
of his
other
music.
great interest was in religion. His family were
There
Seventh-day
probably
Adventists,
is.
and his
Probably.
grandmother often had him accompany her to church. He was reared within the moral confines of that way of worship, which meant no chasing after girls, taking drugs, or going to teen parties.
Oh,
While
bummer.
his peers were engaged in those
I
activities,
think
Vernon
the
was busy
Seventh-day
reading the
Adventists
Bible
are
and
pretty
watching.
hardcore.
Yeah, they are. They don't.
I don't know all that much about them, but I think they're like pretty strict and if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, like, you're not fucking around.
No, I've heard that they're pretty dogmatic.
Yeah.
Watching everything religious that he could find on TV or read in books and magazines. By the age of 10, he was able to recite long passages of scripture and was giving his own mini-sermons at home. As
Very
a preteen, Vernon was still a stutterer. He combined his passion for scripture with his efforts to overcome this speech impediment by listening to powerful sermons on the radio and then reciting the preacher's words. He would study and emulate the vocal skills of the speaker, discovering that when he did so, his stutter disappeared. Vernon's formal schooling finished when he dropped out during his junior year at Garland High School. The 18-year-old gained work as a carpenter in Garland. It was there that he began a relationship with a 15-year-old girl.
Right.
When she fell pregnant, the girl's father became enraged. He forced his daughter to break off the relationship and warned Vernon to stay away. Vernon was in love with the girl, but saw no option but to heed the father's advice. By now, his family were living in Tyler, Texas. It was there that he approached his local Seventh-day Adventist elders and revealed his dilemma to them. He told them that he felt a moral obligation to marry the girl. He was surprised, however, when the elders tried to persuade him against doing so.
Yeah,
he
probably
attempted
bad call.
to reason scripturally with them, only to find that they were getting angry with him. In the end, they simply ordered him to leave the church.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so you can see
As a
how
result
this
of
sets
Vernon's
it up.
situation-
He's trying to follow scripture, and everyone who he thought was teaching him to do that was telling him not to.
Yeah.
So he's going to go make his own church with followers, wives he can have sex with.
Yeah. And guns. What's wrong with that?
And lots of guns. Yep.
Yeah.
So their prophecy, the prophecy that he preached, like, the biggest was that the soldiers of Babylon would come for them, and to escape they would walk through a wall of fire and not be burned. So the way the whole raid plays out, it's almost like perfect.
That's pretty
Like
wild. Man.
everything he was saying came true.
That's not bad. According to Moses, that's a successful prophet. Moses had a very easy standard in the Bible when it came to prophecy, that if someone prophesies something and it doesn't happen, they're not a prophet. Which, you would think that would clear up a lot of issues, but apparently not. Yeah, so he managed to nail that one.
Well, what David prophesized pretty much happened, except the not getting burned part.
Yeah, that part didn't work. Shit, it's always there at that last part, You got all the other lottery numbers except for that last one. Damn.
Actually, a couple of them did survive, and there's an interview with one of them in one of these clips. So maybe for one or two of them, it was true.
Not only he, but his entire family were excommunicated from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Thoroughly disgusted with the organization, he began looking around for an alternative church. He was told about a group called the Branch Davidians, who were based in Waco, Texas. The Branch Davidians are an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventists. This original group was founded in 1929 by a Bulgarian immigrant to the US named Victor Hutev. Originally called the Shepherd's Rod, the sect was set up in Waco, Texas. The group were convinced that the apocalypse was going to occur in 1959, and when it didn't, a group broke away under the leadership of a man named Benjamin Roden. He called this group the Branch Davidians in recognition of their holding to the coming restoration of the Davidic Kingdom of Israel. In 1978, Roden died and his wife, Lois, assumed leadership of the church. Vernon Howell arrived at the Branch Davidian compound in 1980. The 20-year-old had long flowing hair, a charismatic personality, and a self-effacing manner. He appeared to be extremely spiritual to those that he met at the compound, holding to a strict moral code and judging himself as chief among sinners. He turned up with his guitar and a desire to use his music to reach young people with the message of the Lord. Lois Roden was immediately taken with Howell, and she invited him to move into the compound. Before long, the two became romantically involved, despite the fact that she was in her 60s. Lois began to give Vernon growing prominence as a teacher at the compound. She would give him time at the pulpit so he could expound his interpretations to the congregation.
You what now?
He went old and young with his women.
Yeah, he didn't mind. He didn't mind if they were a little dusty.
The girl he married was too young for comfort. Like, it was legal, but it wasn't good.
No. I get you on that. Well, he definitely is willing to deal with certain stuff.
Congregation. Vernon's preaching style
his
was very
wiener.
different to what the churchgoers were used to experiencing. He wore a t-shirt.
What can I
and
say?
jeans and
She's a
spoke with
sucker for a guy with a
illustrations that were often
guitar.
startling in their directness. On one occasion, he likened sin to snot on a person's finger that he just can't get off. Above all, he acknowledged himself as imperfect, as weak, and as a sinner. Vernon's natural charisma, his unkempt looks, the down-to-earth style, and his deep scriptural knowledge were a potent mix. He purposefully positioned himself in the light of Jesus in opposition to the staid, formulaic, and hypocritical Pharisees of mainstream religion. His status was elevated even further when he began to proclaim the gift of prophecy. A few months after
man.
Vernon
Christian
had
has
moved in,
that.
Lois made the bombshell public announcement that she was pregnant with his child. She told her followers that this was all part of God's divine arrangement. However, she would go on to miscarry the baby. However, she still elevated Vernon as her spiritual heir and the next leader of the Branch Davidians.
Wait, I must have missed something. What happened to the husband? I guess he died at some point before all
He
this.
died, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Many in the congregation were in agreement of Lois's consecration of Vernon as her successor, but there was one who was definitely not, and that would be Lois's son, George. George viewed Vernon as a dangerous usurper who had shamefully manipulated his way into his mother's good graces and was now poised to take over the leadership that was rightfully George's to inherit. Over the next 3 years, a power struggle was to play out between Vernon and George, with the congregation split between the two. Tensions came to a peak in 1984 when George and his armed supporters forced Vernon and about 25 of his followers to leave the compounds at Mount Carmel. For the next 2 years, this group was situated in Palestine, Texas, some 90 miles away, where they had to live in buses and tents. During this time, Vernon put his skills into building up his base of followers. Through his music and the power of his personality, he was able to attract new members from far and wide. In 1985, he traveled to Israel with his pregnant wife, Rachel Jones, who was one of the congregation members. It was while in the Holy Land that he became convinced that he was the modern-day incarnation of King Cyrus of Persia. He had been tasked, he claimed, with opening the seven seals.
Who are you a reincarnation of?
Dude. I don't know. That's one I'll have to think about.
Yeah, me too. I want to say maybe someone like Ambrose Bierce. He was kind of cool. He was this author in the 1800s who he pioneered being a sarcastic shithead, and then he disappeared. No one knows whatever happened to the dude. So that's how I'm gonna go.
Like the dude who would always shit on Plato.
Yeah, that guy basically.
Like, I've found you a man, and it's like a plucked chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who like lived in a pile of shit.
Yeah.
And just shit all over all the philosophers. yeah.
What a hero.
Maybe that's who I am.
That's what's up, man. I'm very impressed, man. You moved up from the giant jar.
Seals of the Book of Revelation and proclaiming them to all the world.
You could still do that. I'm sure you could buy a giant jar.
Increasingly erratically, which was causing his followers to decline rapidly. Many in the compound openly supported Vernon Howell and longed for his return. Lois Roden had died in 1986, and George was determined to eliminate the threat that Vernon posed to his leadership. He decided to call Vernon out by challenging him to a resurrection competition. The man that could successfully raise a dead person would be the acknowledged leader.
Well, what happens if neither of them can?
In order to achieve his ends, the now clearly psychotic George had a body exhumed. When Vernon heard about this, he went directly to the authorities and laid a complaint that George had been tampering with a dead body. He was told that the authorities could do nothing unless they had photographic evidence.
Yeah, you need to film it, dude.
In order to obtain the needed proof, Vernon led 7 armed supporters into Mount Carmel. Before they could find the exhumed body, however, they were discovered by George's followers, and a gunfight broke out.
He was the bean farmer, right?
The police broke up the battle, and Vernon and his followers were arrested and put on trial for attempted murder, only to later be acquitted of all charges. Over the next couple of years, as Vernon's following at Palestine grew, back at Mount
he did everything
Carmel,
correct.
George became even more irrational. When one of his supposed followers challenged him, claiming to be the Messiah, George lost control and killed the man with an axe.
Oh my lord.
This act saw him being sent to a hospital for the criminally insane.
Well, dang, that just made it so much easier. You know, you're trying to get rid of a
just
dude.
open the door right up.
With
for
George
him.
now
Yep.
well and truly
Yeah,
out of
one of
the way,
those,
Vernon and his
self-defense
followers
axes
re-entered the Mount
ESP
Carmel
has.
compound. He was
Yeah.
now the undisputed leader of the Branch Davidians. Not long after his return, he had his name legally changed to David Koresh. The word Koresh is the Hebrew name for Cyrus, who David was convinced he was the modern-day incarnation of. With his new name came the conviction that Koresh was more than a prophet. He was the modern-day Messiah, and the words that he spoke were of divine origin. As the 1990s dawned, David Koresh was a 30-year-old self-proclaimed Messiah with a young wife and 2 children. He presided over more than...
You know, in some ways, I kind of like Chris Chan as Jesus. In a way, and I'll explain why. I like the idea that Jesus comes back and he's not really sure what's going on. What is the internet? Well,
Yeah, right.
What's this? That's a GameCube, Jesus. Oh, that's pretty cool. How's it work?
Yeah, all he knows is the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fun.
Although I don't think Chris Chan ever had any carpentry.
No.
I guess he built a lot of shit out of Legos.
That's true. He was a very creative dude with that.
Yeah.
And he did burn his house down, so it's like a reverse carpenter.
Yeah, and Little Big Planet.
Oh man. I wonder what he's up to.
faithful adherents
Oh,
who
God.
lived together in a single large building. Having mastered the fusion of religious music and inspirational proselytizing, Koresh's marathon sermons could last all day and all night. Still, the believers would hang on
I
his
take
every
it he
word.
got over his
Koresh
stutter.
began using his position as the revealer of God's will to announce supposedly divine decrees that were increasingly
It is
to his
interesting,
personal
little shadow.
advantage. One of the most controversial was that all of the women in the complex were to be available to him at any time for his sexual pleasure.
Oh, nice.
This included all of the married women as well. Koresh did not confine his sexual liaisons to adult women. Girls as young as 12 became his sexual partners. These girls
I
have
don't
been
know if
convinced
this
that
is
to give themselves
confirmed.
over to God in the form of Koresh was the
Yeah,
greatest privilege.
I've
that
heard
they could-
back and forth with that. I've
I'm
heard that.
not 100% on that. Like that's what the FBI said, but I don't know if that was really true. Now his wife was super young,
Yes.
so he does like young women or young girls, I guess is the case. But
Yeah, I would say
I
there
don't-
isn't enough to
there's-
support a definitive claim.
yeah, I don't think any of the alleged victims confirmed the story.
Mm-mm.
Not that I know of.
And we always have to remember that they had a reason to lie. Both sides, it's kind of
Sure.
what we'll get into here is that both sides were basically miniature DSPs in their own little way. They all had reasons to lie and hide their accountability and things. So,
Yeah, why would a bride of the Messiah tell the truth to Babylon?
exactly.
Yeah,
could attain.
but I don't think
The men
that's
of Mount Carmel,
actually
including
confirmed.
those who were married, were to remain celibate. This was because there was only one seed that was holy, and it flowed from Koresh. As a result, the majority of the children at the complex were his. At the time of his death, he was father to 15 sons and daughters. While the majority of the Branch Davidians accepted this arrangement as the will of God, there were a handful of dissenters who left the church because of it. Some of those who left were Australian. When they returned back home to Australia, they went to the American embassy and child abuse charges were laid against Koresh. Back in the United States, other defectors made similar charges. In response to the allegations, Child Protective Services sent investigators to the Mount Carmel complex. Their specific brief, however, was to assess the validity of an accusation that children had access to firearms. Koresh, however, showed that all of the firearms were under lock and key, and Child Protective Services, they closed the case. In the wake of the
There you go.
defections, Koresh became increasingly angry and violent towards his followers. When one woman expressed a desire to take her child on leave, he denied her permission, and to teach her a lesson, he raped her. He then went on to recount
well,
the
if that's
incident as
true, I
a
guess
warning
people
to the
weren't allowed to
congregation.
leave.
At this
Yeah.
time, his sermons they became
Yeah.
darker, with a constant
Content
theme
warning, by
of
the
the
way.
coming day of judgment. He told his followers that
Yeah.
Armageddon was going to be initiated right there at Mount Carmel, and that they had to be prepared to give up their lives in order to usher in the
Okay.
kingdom.
I have a suggestion, and I know that it's blasphemous, but do you think it'd be possible to do it in such a way that people wouldn't think it's that blasphemous? If you made a new gospel and Chris Chan was the main character. I mean, you'd have to play it very well and be kind of respectful with it, but you could do something like, and verily
If
the
you do it
pickle
as a
man.
parody.
Yeah. You know, you have the pickle man tormenting Jesus in the desert and stuff like that.
Yeah, the slanderous trolls and Pharisees
Yes.
spoke lies about him. Yeah,
Get all
yeah,
the stuff
sure.
about my prophecies off the internet now.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the tax collectors will take our house away.
Sorry, Jesus. I don't mean to belittle you, but you know it'd be funny.
By 1992, Koresh had imbued a siege mentality into the minds of his followers. The governmental authorities, they were agents of the devil, and they were preparing for a cataclysmic showdown with the true followers of God who were holed up at Waco. By divine inspiration, Koresh revealed that he had been instructed to stockpile weapons at the compound. David soon discovered that the trading of guns was a lucrative business, providing much-needed funds for the ongoing costs associated with the compound. He would have members buying up cheap weapons and then selling them at gun trade shows. Any excess money would be used to build up their arsenal. Meanwhile, the information about the presence
a little
of
shout out
weapons in
about all
Carmel
that.
had been passed on by the
know
agents
how
who
I'm
had
gonna
visited from Child
get that squared
Protective
away.
Services to the FBI, who had in turn given it to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms. The ATF now began surveillance of the property. The situation went up a notch when a UPS delivery package was seen by agents to contain hand grenades, which were illegal. This discovery led to an 8-month investigation which revealed a trail of everything from grenade launchers to assault weapons, ending up at Mount Carmel. By early November of 1992, the ATF had amassed enough evidence to take Koresh into custody. They were worried, though, that his followers, who sincerely believed that he was the Messiah, would fight to stop them from taking him away. They could have arrested him when he was in town buying supplies, but for some reason they chose not to. Instead, they placed some undercover agents in a small cabin that was situated right in front of the entrance to the compound.
Oh, that's
One of
really
the agents,
subtle.
Robert Rodriguez, managed to
Yeah.
befriend members of the group and get
Yeah, I
himself
think they
invited
were,
to a Bible study class where he could observe
They were
Koresh up close.
pretending to
The
be a
ATF
frat
concluded that
house,
Koresh
but
was
they were
an
like
imminent danger to
35-year-olds.
society who could unleash his followers and their lethal
Did you ever
force.
see? Did you ever watch Ed, Ed, and Eddie?
Yeah.
There's an episode where Ed was tasked to do surveillance on Kevin, and he says, "All right, you hid the camera real well, right?" "Yeah, I did, no problem." And then it cuts to the camera in the driveway with a stick taped to it. That's pretty
Yep.
much what the FBI was doing here.
Also
Yeah,
upon
and
any
like
target-
there's like Wendigoon talks about this, how like while they were doing this, like some of the Davidians like went over and talked to them, and they were like, you don't have to watch us from over here. You can just come in and like take a tour if you want. Like they were like, we know what you're doing, and like it's not working, and we're also not really hiding.
Oh man, your stealth check failed so hard.
Yeah, that you were invited in. Yeah. It's like you don't have to sneak around. You can just come in. We're open.
Solid Snake, I see you down there. You can come in and hear my master plan if you want.
You don't need the cardboard box.
any time. They decided that the best course of action was to stage a raid on his complex.
Obviously.
The date was set for February the 28th, 1992. An hour before the raid was scheduled to go down, undercover agent Rodriguez went into the compound and showed Koresh that morning's copy of a local paper with its blazing headline, The Sinful Messiah, alongside a picture of Koresh. Koresh, who had already been informed that there was a build-up of law enforcement and media around the area, told Rodriguez that he knew that the ATF were about to attack. Upon exiting Mount Carmel, Rodriguez tried to warn his ATF bosses that Koresh already knew about the surprise raid. But it was too late. Fully armed agents were already closing in on the compound. To this day, it remains
they were going to
unclear
have
as to
a
which
fight,
side fired.
whether anyone liked it or not.
Yeah.
They built like a replica of the compound. They trained as if it was like a raid. Like they weren't really trying to just arrest him. They were there to. I don't know why they thought it would be better for them to have a fight. I guess it makes the other side look worse. But like they could have got him, and they chose to do it this way instead.
And it's very confusing when you remember the context of Ruby Ridge, where it was such a clusterfuck because they sent in armed dudes and just started spraying gunfire. So I'm not
they
really
sent
sure.
in dudes in ghillie suits to like go do surveillance on their property, and then while they were doing it, the kid's dog saw them and
Yes.
barked at them, so they shot his dog. So then naturally, and they were out hunting. So
Yeah.
like naturally the other people returned fire, and now you have a fucking bloodbath on your hands.
Exactly.
So they figured the better way to do this one was to just sneak up on him with a shitload of rifles and make sure he wouldn't give himself up. I don't know. I
It
guess
really
he
does
could
make a
have
lot of
just
sense.
given himself up too. That is an option.
I guess
it's
it was
like
about the
when
show
you're
force, huh?
when your prophecy is that this is going to happen, like you can't go back on that.
No.
It's like I got a way to make them cooperate. We'll force them to deny their religion.
Yeah. It did kind of play into his hands in a lot of ways.
It's like we need to capture this Muslim, so we're going to make him eat pork. It's like, no, that's not going to work the way. That's not going
No,
to make him like you.
yeah, it kind of it mortifies him, and that's a whole other issue you got after that.
Yeah, and like this dude said, they could have just arrested him when he was out and about.
Yeah.
That would have been like he probably wouldn't have done anything then.
It just strikes me as they were wanting to put on a show of force and strong arm them, and for lack of a better way of describing it, make it look cool. Make them look badass. And I don't exactly know why.
They were cool. Yeah. And even afterwards, they like took trophy pictures with the burned down compound, knowing that a bunch of kids died in there.
Yes. Spoilers.
They were like proud of it. Also, during the raid, they were like mooning them and like putting up signs that said fuck you and like all kinds of just like, just antagonistic, not the best way to negotiate.
No.
And they were playing like the sounds of dying rabbits 24/7 so no one could sleep inside. They were doing a lot of like pretty gross things that like, and I think it was an FBI guy that showed up later because I think the ATF was there first, and an FBI guy showed up and he's like, this is on TV. What are you doing? Like, what do you think this is going to do for you?
It wasn't their solution to move the TV crews away.
Yeah, so then the TV crews got to see all the protesters.
Yeah.
But within minutes, a fierce firefight was underway. More than 70 ATF officers were secreted around the building while army helicopters circled above. Inside, Branch Davidian members poured fire on the invaders who had come to take away their messiah. The shooting lasted for more than 60 minutes. Koresh was hit in the wrist, while 6 of his followers were shot dead. 4 ATF agents were also killed. As the fighting continued, Koresh made a phone call to the local police department, urging that the raid be stopped. The request fell on dead ears, and he hung up and proceeded to go upstairs. It was then that he was wounded a second time, this time more seriously. The bullet penetrated his hip, confining him to the floor. When the shooting ended, the ATF had multiple casualties and no David Koresh. The handling of the raid was roundly condemned, leading to intervention by the FBI. With worldwide attention now focused on Waco, the new men in charge were determined to end the standoff as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think I remember this happening, but I was a very, very small child, and all I just saw were like pictures of the place
proclaiming
burning.
For so many years was now upon his followers.
A clip
With him
we're going to
were
watch
117 of the faithful,
times,
including 46 children. Nobody wanted to leave, but Koresh sent out 14 children, none of which were his offspring in the days after the raid. Koresh's main preoccupation during the siege, which was to last for 51 days, was to get his message about the 7 seals out to the world. The raid had created a media frenzy, and he believed that he could capitalize on the publicity to get the word out. For hours on end, he proselytized over the phone to FBI negotiators. 3 days after the raid, Koresh agreed to bring out all of his followers if he could get one of his sermons aired on the radio. This was duly complied with, but Koresh failed to live up to his side of the bargain, claiming that God had told him to hold off until he received further instruction.
Yeah, probably a good call.
After 2 weeks, food, water, and milk for the young children was running
God
dangerously
kind of comes
low
through
inside
for
the
you like
compound.
that.
Koresh told his slowly starving followers that the hardship they were facing was a direct test of their faith in him. Things got worse when the FBI cut off all power to the complex and began playing loud music and shining blazing lights throughout the night in order to prevent the Branch Davidians from sleeping. Still, the people inside, they would not budge. Koresh had been letting out a trickle of people thus far, but now he angrily declared that no one else would leave Mount Carmel so long as the government kept up the torment. An increasingly frustrated FBI now brought in Abrams tanks, which proceeded to smash and destroy all property outside of the compound, including vehicles. With the pressure tactics falling flat, the FBI allowed a defense attorney hired by Koresh's mother to go in and talk to his client. Koresh told the lawyer,
"Yeah, the tanks.
That's what they did, was bring in some tanks
even though the
to
FBI
destroy all their
shit. Worldwide television.
What would have been next? What would have been next? They fly in some jets to do a couple strafing runs of the place.
I mean, they almost did. They rammed tanks through the side of the building.
Broadcast of his
Bring in the
message, if he
Apaches,
promised
just
to come
level
out,
the
his
place.
trust in them was shattered, and he refused the offer. There was a breakthrough of sorts on April the 14th when Koresh announced that God had instructed him to write down the entire message of the 7 seals of Revelation. When this majestic work was completed as promised, the siege would be over and the Branch Davidians would come out. The 7 seals offer, however, was never passed on to U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, who on April the 17th authorized a plan to use tanks and tear gas to bring the siege to an end.
Yep. Good call,
Mm-hmm.
Madam Reno.
The end began at 6 a.m. on April the 19th when an FBI agent phoned Koresh and told him that tear gas was being placed in the building by mechanical arms attached to tanks. He stressed that it was not an assault and urged the Davidians not to fire their weapons.
They just
The tank
happened to
smashed
do
into the
it
building
right where
as
all
it
the
delivered
women and
CS
children
gas.
were too.
Inside, the people
Just
were in
coincidentally.
agony, unable to breathe and feeling as if their
Also, how
throats
is it
and
not
lungs
an
were on
attack?
fire. Still,
Yeah, right.
it came out.
Yeah, it's not
After
an
6
attack. We're just
hours
gonna
of
break the walls down and gas everyone.
Look, I can understand how you might think us destroying your building and using chemical warfare might be an attack, but it's a common misconception. You got to look at the subtlety of things, guys.
Fire erupted, which quickly got out of control. Now, surely, onlookers reasoned, those inside would come out. But it wasn't to be. The fire raged through the building, killing 79 people, including 22 children. Koresh had made his way to the chapel. With the flames closing in, he died of a gunshot wound to the head. Nobody knows whether or not he claimed his own life.
I mean, how do you
So I really
not
hope you
know?
found that
Can't
video
you do?
interesting.
Well,
If you
doesn't
did,
matter.
please do give us a thumbs up
Everything's
below. And don't
burned
forget
up,
to
I
subscribe and hit
I
that
guess,
bell
yeah.
so you get notified when we put out new videos. We normally do a couple of these every week. Some of them dark like
All right,
this.
get out of
That's
man.
good on that one. So
Let's-
go to, there's an interview. Not that one. That one. Yeah. So this is like an interview with him before all this shit happened.
Okay.
Edition of a current affair. He was charismatic with the
I think they
gift
get
of the
into
gab.
it pretty
He
quick.
charmed families using his biblical teachings, luring disciples from all around the world,
This is only from a
including
year ago.
Australia, to his
So the
Waco
reason they weren't
compound.
coming out
Vernon
too is they
Howe-
were afraid they would just be shot.
Yes,
Because
which
like the way the ATF started off with them was basically a shootout. So they were like, understandably afraid that anyone who came out would also be shot because
It's-
some of them already had been.
it's a very reasonable fear because these dudes are flying helicopters around, blasting loudspeakers, and plowing tanks through the walls. You're not
and
under
then
the
when
impression
the
that
FBI came through and tried to negotiate, like it's already like, well, the last government guy that came led to a shootout, so like, why would we trust you?
yeah. No,
Plus,
that,
you've got like they think David Koresh is the Messiah, and like there's a prophecy that this is going to happen. So you
Right.
want to stay with the Messiah, yeah. You don't want to be Judas,
and you haven't done a very good job of convincing people to come out.
right?
So yeah, it's a completely unsalvageable situation.
Yep.
who we know as David Koresh, was the evil cult leader responsible for the deaths of 86 men, women and children 30 years ago this month. A Current Affairs' Martin King was the only journalist to interview Koresh
Now,
and to
I'm
be
not trying to state too much of my opinion on this, but already I kind of got a little annoyed with this lady, how she contextualized that David
Yeah.
Koresh is responsible for all these deaths. Which, yes, you can make the argument that he is, but it seems rather disingenuous to just put it all on him. When,
Right,
again, the
right.
feds show up in tanks, laying into the place.
Yeah.
You didn't, quite honestly, you really didn't give them a whole lot of options besides just staying put and letting themselves die. So, I don't know. I don't feel like that's,
Yeah, it's not like he killed his own people.
no. He didn't
His
walk through and execute them.
actions led to their death. But
Yes.
he didn't. Yeah, he's not Jim Jones.
No. I feel like it's and it goes to the underlying issue of why Waco resonates so much is because despite the best efforts to paint it as a good versus evil scenario, it really can't be. It's there was too much misdeed and ineptitude on the part of the federal government that they can't be branded as the good guys here. Not really.
Yeah,
invited inside his Texas compound. Marty joins me now from Melbourne. Marty, this was an extraordinary interview, a world exclusive at the time, and it really is chilling to look back 30 years on.
Deb, it certainly sends chills up my spine.
This guy
even
sends
now.
chills up my spine.
We had been contacted by Australians who'd escaped the cult and left relatives
Do you have a cult, sir?
They
You
were
look like you would
worried about
have
what
one.
was going to happen, so we asked Vernon Howell, better known as David Koresh, if we could pay him a visit. Frankly, I was surprised when he said yes, and shocked at what happened when I came face to face
No.
with a madman.
So you're Jesus, huh?
He said he
Pretty
was
cool.
the leader of God's Marines.
They come in here with a gun and they start shooting at us. What would you do? Tell me, be realistic. This is America. This is not Australia. This is not Europe.
And he led his loyal disciples into a hell on earth.
His disciples actually look pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah, he does have a pretty diverse group, and they don't
like
look...
everybody looks pretty cool in that congregation.
Yeah, they don't... Because, you know, you've got a lot of narratives about cults. We were going to Far Cry, and hell, like Heaven's Gate. This image of cults is this psychopathic, unhinged group of basically cavemen. And, yeah, not really there. Not really.
Yeah, and this dude was playing rock music, and he had a bunch of people around him that like seemed fairly normal. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say being in a cult is normal, but like
No.
compared to other cults.
Yeah, definitely. Other cults, you can see them and say, oh, yeah, that's a cult. These guys, well, they're a cult, but how much of one are they?
Vernon
This
Howell
footage
has
I've
proved to
seen
the
before,
world
and I
that in
never
his
knew it
cult
was
there's a
this.
very fine line
Yeah,
between
same.
divinity and death.
Bloodshed, Inquisition.
That image, and then the flyovers as the building. Yeah,
Especially
these
when a
ones are the ones that I saw
madman
when I was
is
a little
calling
kid.
the shots.
Get that camera out of here! Get out of here! I need help! I need help!
Oh goodness,
In Texas,
That's
religion
just
is a
great.
way of life.
I like that.
This is the Bible Belt.
It kind of reminds me of.
Unrelated.
Never mind. That's a dumb connection. I'm not gonna go with that one.
4 officers were killed in the battle. At least 1 member of the sect was shot dead.
He says that he did not fulfill his promise to leave immediately with his followers because God told him to wait.
We came to Waco, Texas because former followers of Vernon Howell, who also likes to be known as David Koresh, had made shocking allegations and even more terrifying predictions about this man who claimed to be the Messiah.
He has more of a Charles Manson mentality, you know, and I do see him as eventually becoming very violent if he's
Not
pushed
really.
in a corner.
I believe that they will kill for Vernon, and that is what he is. He's winding people up to that stage.
We came because the tentacles of the Branch Davidian cult had reached right across the Pacific and poisoned the lives of Australian men, women and children. And we came to do something that no one else has ever been able to achieve, to confront this self-professed son of God face to face.
Waco is still this weird today. Yeah, don't they have like?
What about these people here?
Think people make pilgrimages to it?
Well, you know what they think of me?
Probably.
They think I'm the son
It
of
became
God.
like sort of a symbol of like resistance against the government.
Yeah.
And it also inspired Timothy McVeigh
It did.
to blow up the Oklahoma City building.
It
which
inspired what's his name? The dude who did the
that was
Turner
pretty
Diaries.
bad. Oh, did it really?
I believe so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So a lot of evil came from this.
They'd come from all over America, all over the world, drawn by one man and his message.
I mean nothing to myself. I want to know what truth is, and I'm searching for
Man,
it. If he happens to
I
be
should
the
look like
vehicle
this,
that
dude.
shows me, I thank God for him.
Yeah. I
Somebody
used to have
here
hair
is
like
reading
that.
the
Didn't have a
Bible
mustache like that though.
and teaching me about it, which out there at all the places I've been to and I've been around, I have not found anybody that knew anything about the Bible.
Really? DSP is just
Right
online
from the
Waco.
outset,
I'm
it
waiting
was
for DSP's federal agent standoff. I think it would be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, if what we already know about the followers of his that we know about continues, there could be a raid on these fucking deviants, dude.
Yes.
Like between Derek and Darziak.
Oh god, Darziak, man.
Yeah. Like they're, I don't know, like he's got some people that maybe the new FBI will be looking into.
I think so. And DSP is gonna. Well, he'll have something to discuss on DSP politics.
Yeah,
Obvious
right?
that something
The government is
sinister
attacking
was
my
underway.
pay pigs.
Vernon had ordered the demolition of all the old cottages at the compound. As they came down, the walls of his fortress grew. Finally, I got an audience with the man with the fatal charm.
I failed school. I quit in 9th grade because I had other things I had to do.
Like what?
I had to learn some things. I'm a student.
But
you see?
Isn't that what school is for?
What did you learn?
I learned about people.
Oh, my bad.
That's what I do. I learn about people. I learn about myself.
What about these people here?
Well, those people here are people. Well, you know what they think of me? They think I'm the son of God.
Do they?
Yeah.
How sweet is that, eh?
Great.
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 16.
What would I do for him? I love him as a brother.
Is he the son of God?
I hope he is.
Revelation states that Christ has the key of David. Only he can open and none can shut. There's 150 Psalms here. Some people find it amazing that I know every one of them.
Vernon Howell.
You know, I was told this guy was
33
pretty
years old,
electrifying.
The same age as Christ.
That one wasn't
when he
so
died
hot.
on the cross.
Oh, this time when Christ reveals himself is going to be according to the book. Because there's some statements in there that might make you a little bit happy.
Howell drifted into Mount Carmel in
David Koresh,
1981
aka
after
Phil
being kicked
1.0.
out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
So the bottom line is this. Basically, there's going to be a wall of fire.
In the early days, Hal worked in the kitchen for his.
Now, I'm not
room
really
and
sure
board.
based on this footage,
But it wasn't long
but
before-
it's kind of hard to say with it because I don't think anyone ever really looked happy during this era. So I'm not sure if their unhappiness is because they're in a
Right.
cult or because it's the early 90s.
Or he claimed divine inspiration. His launching
These dudes
pad
look
for
alright, though.
taking over the
Yeah, this
cult.
guy, I don't know.
Woe to the what? Wicked city who obeyed not the what? She received not what? She drew not near to who?
Several times a day,
Possibly
these
Jim
people
Jones.
downed tools and underwent
Jim
some
Jones
mental
is
hammering
more
from
Phil
Hal.
like,
Hours of what he
I
called
think.
religious instruction.
because they
But
were
psychiatrists
isolated.
say
Yeah.
was really brainwashing.
Wait on me to the day that I rise up to the parade. We're hunting for my determinations to what? That I may pour upon them my fierce indignation.
His followers are mostly young, aged in their 20s and 30s and from middle-class homes.
Alright.
They're united by a search for meaning in their lives.
I'll go to the discotheque. You'll find me in L.A. County. You'll
Which one's
find
the
me in
federal agent?
pubs
See if you can spot him.
where most of these people
It's a
were
fun
found.
game for all the chat. All right. Let's
There's
pause it right here. Who is it? You would think it'd be this dude right here, the one in the blue
Right,
shirt at the
that
very
would be the
back.
first instinct.
Yeah, I would think that.
But no, it's that dude in the front leaning forward with the leather jacket on.
I was thinking it was this black dude right here.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, because I don't know, something about his face. He's saying, "Man, I have to get paid to listen to this shit. It's still not really worth it." Yeah, that's who I think. Or it's this lady in the purple. She's
I
sinister
think
looking.
they all knew who the Fed was.
Yeah, they
at
did.
all times, because it's like it's you and all the people you live with, and then there's this other guy here who's looking around taking notes.
Yeah, this guy, this shady guy at the cult might be the
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. The tourist.
Drug addicts here.
Boy, it would be
wasn't
weird if we
the
had a bunch of
welfare
guns
that
around
got
here,
them off, but
huh?
It wasn't the Christian philosophies. It was some
you're the
facts.
Fed.
You know, you got to sometimes take people and let them throw up on you. Jamie, what was the song that y'all used to do in the heavy metal band? Go ahead, hit it.
Sunglasses and white hair dude? Yeah, he could have been him.
Now it's time to worship God. Yes, it's time to worship God on your face.
Oh, very good. You might want to workshop that one a bit.
Vernon gets out his guitar and blasts his followers with a dose of doomsday rock and roll.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can't make that bad. That's always cool.
The lyrics are about death and destruction. A surrounding army
That's good, Wyatt.
intent on destroying.
So DSP tries it where DSP doesn't try it, but everyone else has to try it.
See the armies sitting around the camps. You wonder who they are. See the armies sitting around the camps. You wonder who they are.
Time to de-escalate things.
Enjoying the music was Steve Schneider, Hal's right-hand
Federal
man,
agent.
the man who took on the role of negotiator during talks with the FBI.
Oh no, he rocks kind of hard, man.
He does, dude. Like he
We want to
actually
get
like
him and his
like I hate
followers.
to like glorify him, but like he is fucking cool.
Yeah, definitely the music. I would love to see covers. I think that Guar should do a cover of one of his songs. I bet it would kick ass.
Yeah, they probably should and maybe did.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
I need to hear it.
I wouldn't put it past. Let me do a little research in the background here.
Yeah, Spurs fan, I saw it. I'm opinionated about it. I'm not particularly too impressed, but I'll talk about that at another time. I hope to be wrong, though. I hope that I'm stupid and incorrect about it.
Our assurance that he and everyone inside will be treated fairly and humanely
With a tank.
if they come out.
He pushed the right buttons with each and every one of us. Each person has got their own button, their own Achilles heel. And he was able to turn that light on.
Why did he come to Australia?
To recruit people to add to the numbers that he had already had.
Well, he wanted hardy people, and those people live in a hardy land.
And so did their twins, Peter and Nicole.
A deadly land.
She was 19. She came down from Queensland to Melbourne right at the wrong time. Vernon was here.
He was all muscly, he'd done bodybuilding, was wearing a T-shirt with cut-off
He was there
sleeves.
to influence
Oh,
Nicole.
he was hot,
and
huh?
he admitted that too. He was there to talk Nicole around to come back to the States. And he turned Peter's head around
Oh, it's the
completely.
dude who did
And he
Yonder.
pushed all
It's
the right
Yonder
buttons
Dev.
with Peter, and Peter said, yeah, man, I can see that. And he was away. Peter, there was no stopping Peter.
Alright, so what happened to Peter?
It was a situation that was to have tragic consequences for the family.
I want you guys to
Soon,
know
the
I'm not
gents were
joking
living
to
with the
belittle
cult
these
at
things,
a
but you know,
property
I
in
joke to get
Palestine,
past
Texas.
drama.
Conditions were primitive.
This shit is
Was an old
sad.
converted bus.
Yeah, it's
or
an
a
absolute
tent.
tragedy. But
He
like we have to
basically
be a little,
influenced me
we have to try to be funny.
make the decision, well, I'll go because I wanted to do God's work for a change rather than, do my own
Dude, you must too young.
But it wasn't long before they
Yonder
discovered
Dev
they'd
would be
made
a fun thing to
terrible
cover.
mistake.
Why do the
I
heathen
know
rage?
nothing of them.
Really?
What's their problem?
Oh yeah, okay. That'll be
It's
an episode we'll cover.
brainwashing.
In Psalms
And
4,
why I'm
you
saying
learn
it's
about King
brainwashing is
David.
because
I waited
it's nothing to
patiently
sit in on studies of 8, 10, 12, 15-hour studies.
Do you teach them?
I show them.
Or do you brainwash them?
Doesn't Christ brainwash you, gets rid of the filth, and puts in the good?
Yeah, it's all just about choosing which brainwashing you get.
Yeah, and the way he's preaching is like no different
Disillusioned.
than like most evangelical services.
Oh, definitely.
Like with the like repeat things, like say the last word of the line, go back and forth. Sometimes it's about like the end times or like damnation. Like that's all normal.
Yeah. I would say that it's in many ways hard to condemn him because of that. Because
Right. It's
yeah,
more
his
the
language is the same.
extracurricular activities he was doing.
Exactly.
Like you're not really supposed to bang everyone's wife when you're the preacher.
Yeah.
You're
Try and
really
avoid that if you
not.
can.
Even though
Recently-
like a lot do it.
Yes.
Lisa returned to Australia in 1990.
but their twins,
I can't
Peter
really
and
listen to
Nicole,
televangelists.
insisted on staying.
It kind of hurts my heart sometimes the way they talk.
Nicole said, as far as she was concerned, she now did not have any family anymore, no mother and father.
I guess more than anything, it's just a matter of I see them praising all these things and saying all these positive messages, but then I see their giant mega mansions and I think, bro, something's incongruent with this. And
I forget the name of the dude, but there's like a wild preacher in Texas who like they're like, well, why do you have this jet? And it's like, because God wants me to have it.
Copeland, you're thinking of Copeland.
yeah, that dude.
Yeah.
That dude is wild.
He look, it's not fair to judge people based on their physical appearance, but that dude straight up looks evil. He looks so sinister.
Yeah.
He terrifies small children, you know?
Yeah.
Of course, by this
God
stage,
wanted him to have a
Nicole was
plane,
pregnant
alright.
to the man who said he was Christ.
He selects whoever he wants to go to bed with, and I know that Nicole is quite a favourite of his, or was, and all the women compete to be the best.
Your daughter has been sleeping with Vernon, has had his baby. How does that affect you?
Well, having his baby at that time, we all thought that was the right thing to do because he was saying, we have to have babies to the Lord.
People say you've been sleeping with the women here. Is that true?
No,
Well.
only one. And she's tired of it. Now, I mean, she's tired of the accusations.
Vernon,
That was
or
pretty
David
good.
Koresh, as he prefers to be called, claims to have one wife, Rachel, who was 14 when he married her.
Oh,
One
yeah.
wife.
Have you
Yeah,
got
that's
Have
no
I committed
good.
adultery? Is what you're fixing to
Have
It
you-
is
you
legal,
committed
but it's
adultery?
no good.
Yeah, it's
At least I
definitely
think
very
it was
bad
legal.
optics here,
I
man.
don't know. I'm not
No, I don't commit adultery.
You telling me the truth?
I'm telling you the truth. I'm after truth. And that's all I offer.
Everybody's got a bit of bullshit in them.
Well, I sometimes have to use those means, but that's also written in the book, too. I'd like to show you.
In fact, why don't you come back to my room?
yeah,
Vernon's
bangs
message
the-
to his followers was that he'd die in a...
The dude comes back to do his report. Dude,
charms him.
I don't know quite how to tell you guys this, but he's really good at what he does. Oh yeah? How so? He got me naked.
Actually, I'm not coming back to Australia.
I think that was something in Family Guy or whatever. Peter Griffin goes and confronts Bill Clinton. Yeah, and ends up in bed with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, oops.
violent battle against unbelievers. And all those who died with him would join him in heaven. Together, they'd rule the world.
People would kill me.
Who?
Fanatics, people that revolve around tradition, that are not going to have their mind unsettled in regards to what they believe or how they feel.
Are you going to fight back?
Am I going to fight back? You know, it's funny that Christ on the cross, they said he laid down there, and he just took it. But Psalms 22 doesn't say that.
And you would think this compound would have better chairs.
Well, I believe that they will kill for Vernon. And that is what he is. He's winding people up to that stage.
When Bruce Gent made this prediction more than a year ago, nobody took any notice. In fact, a lot of people wrote him off as just another religious crank. Bruce Gent is anything but that. And he was in the perfect position to know about the extent of Vernon Howell's bloody ambitions.
Vernon put me in charge of security. I know that they're carrying sidearms now, 22s, 23s, I think. Anyhow, it's a fairly heavy caliber gun. There was quite a few of those. Handguns, police, riot shotguns, probably about 20, 30 guns in all.
Well, what happened to all the guns? Where are they now?
Oh, some of the guns are...
Wouldn't you
some.
like to know?
You have guns?
Yeah, we have some.
Would you use a gun if somebody came in here? If somebody trespassed?
People trespass all the time. We used a gun? No, we don't. We don't. They come in here with a gun and they start shooting at us. What would you do? Tell me, be realistic. This is America. This is not Australia. This is not Europe.
Oh, there you go. Case in point.
As the world witnessed, this cult leader was as good as his word. But the real tragedy of Mount Carmel is this. It need never have happened.
Right through the walls.
Yeah. It's very scary to think of.
Yeah.
You could just be sitting there inside and you're dead.
We've been trying for...
Well, no, they were shooting out
2.5
through the
years to
walls.
get
But
the
I mean, if
authorities
it's
to
that
do
same kind of
something about
thickness.
this, and
Yep,
it's just
sure.
hard to explain. It's the frustration of it all. We partly conditioned to 2.5 years of extreme frustration.
Former cult members say they warned no less than 5 American authorities from Waco to Washington of the impending disaster at Mount Carmel. The
I
Australian
think they
Foreign
probably
Affairs
did
Department
listen. That's
was
why they
also
responded
informed.
like this.
But at the end of the day, no one lifted a finger to defuse Vernon's time bomb.
FBI authorities say the situation is taking a turn for the worse.
And these hairstyles, dude, they take me back.
We
Shit.
have our beliefs that there are people who would willingly walk out if they were allowed to do so.
We've
Some
just
did.
travelled from Australia,
Yeah, they did.
and we're to a stage where I don't know whether I've got 2 children or not, whether they've been killed or... Can you enlighten me at all there?
Sir, we do have information from the children that we've already gotten out and the 2 elderly ladies that have been removed that there are casualties inside. Some people are dead. We do not know any names.
For the sake of the children, our song Madmen in Waco, right? This is for the little children, right? God knows how it should be. Stars and stripes are flying, give us justice and liberty for the children's sake. You know, you might have to bear a gun one day.
We're within a few miles of our kids. We might as well stayed in Melbourne, I think.
Even worse for the gents was the knowledge that this would-be Christ was using the children of Mount Carmel, including their own grandchildren, as human shields against the military might of the US government.
He has made such statements as...
Well, I think they were inside a bunker.
Yeah, they. From what I understand, the children were as much shepherded away as possible, and it goes back to what we said initially: is like, can you trust the U.S. government to not fire on children?
And
you know,
I think they're using the term symbolically that like there's kids in here, so you can't shoot at us. But the term "human shield" means human shield. Yeah.
I have you in a chokehold and I'm firing on someone. That's
right. Yeah.
We are ready for war.
After a week in Waco and no news, the bitterly disappointed gents returned to Australia. But there was a terrible irony. The whole time they were in Texas, their son Peter was dead. He was one of the first to die in the bloody shooting.
Oh, dang.
When we got the information, it was like a sledgehammer.
And Bruce started falling apart. And then I took the phone. And then I started falling apart.
But worse was to come. The FBI had had enough.
The
Time to
FBI
de-escalate.
continued broadcasting messages over the loudspeaker system for people to exit the building toward the sound of the speakers to be rescued.
At 6 o'clock, the tanks rolled in, pumping tear gas. Six hours later, the cult self-destructed after fanatical members torched the fortress.
And that's the
We
part
did not
where
introduce
it's not clear who started the fire.
Yeah, because they were they said they used like no incendiary devices, but the tear gas grenades and shit that they used are technically incendiary.
Yes.
So, and Wendigoon goes like deep into some of this. Like we can't obviously watch the whole Wendigoon video, but if there's time at the end, we can watch part of it.
Yes, Wendigoon's video is probably the best comprehensive look on the entire event because he does get into the incredibly minute details. that are.
He's very anti ATF though, for sure.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely taking a few liberties in the other direction.
Yes.
Which in a lot of cases is closer to the truth, but in this one there's some like there was gas all over the place in there.
Yeah.
That's pretty there's reason to believe that like a bunch of propellant was spilled in there, so
Yeah.
it's hard to really say.
It could always be an accident.
To this compound.
Yeah.
It was not
Yeah.
our
I
intention
mean, there
that
were a
this
lot of shots
compound
fired
be
into the
burned down.
building.
I can't tell you the shock and the horror that all of us felt when we saw those flames coming out there. It was, oh my God, they're killing themselves.
Yeah, but then they took pictures over the burned wreckage.
Why
and-
the FBI decided to up the stakes on
thought they
day
were
51
heroes.
of this standoff seems vague. But one thing is certain. Once it began, it could only end one way.
Obviously, if I thought the chances were great of a mass suicide, I would never have approved the plan. Everything that we were told, every indication of the reactions to the pressure up to that point
I don't believe that's true. I think
that there
Wendigoon
would
gets
not-
into that as well.
would not occur.
Yeah.
Man, compelling stuff though. But
I
definitely,
believe one of the people who took pictures over the charred bodies was made director of the ATF recently as well.
Oh wow.
So that's always nice.
That's some upward mobility on these promotions, eh?
Yeah. So here's another interview.
Okay,
I think
so-
this one's actually better.
This is a good. There's a battle between good and evil. All right, let's see.
There is a battle between good and evil, between every individual and
Ooh, that
themselves.
audio's rough.
You know, between
It's not
what's
great.
Right is right. It's
90s
Christ, and what's
camera
wrong is wrong,
mic.
that's the devil. And I have to admit, doing right in my life and doing wrong in my life. But George,
This was David Koresh when we first met him in an exclusive interview back in 1987. At the time, he was known as Vernon Howell, and he was involved in a deadly dispute
He
for
kinda has
control of
whiny
the Branch
eyebrows.
Davidian sect. Even then, his enemies were saying this self-proclaimed son of God was closer to Satan.
George says you're a warlock
Sweet.
and that you have the sign of an upside-down cross on your chest.
You've never
and that's
seen
the
me
sign of
plant a
warlock.
symbol
You've studied
totem of
Satanism.
rage.
I was involved in Satanism. But
Exactly.
you see, I'm a musician. You see, the guitars and stuff. There was a time in my life where I was seeking after Christ and all that. And
So a little shadow. We kind of got into a little bit, but the main reason why that the Branch Davidians, I guess you could say, evaded the law for so long is because, for the most part, they actually didn't do anything wrong. For the most part, a lot of their
Other
businesses,
than potential sexual crimes.
yes, but like when it came to their weapon ordinances and whatnot, or I mean, their weapons
Yeah,
business.
they were in FFL.
Yeah, they were completely on the level. They were cleared on everything, and they didn't go around causing trouble in their community. They were rather model citizens, and because of that, that's why it took a long time for the feds to
Yeah, they
finally
were-
find the rationale to crack down on them. And
They were pretty well behaved, and it's kind of like they just chose not to have a big blowout sooner, and that's kind of incredible.
yes,
Because it could have happened a bunch of other times.
hmm
Like the feds were around there a lot, and most of the time they were just like, "Yeah, you guys can see what we're doing. We have nothing to hide." So like, well, and I think one of the things was like a UPS guy was delivering a crate, and like the crate opened, and he was like, "Grenades were in there." So they like searched them for that, and it was dummy grenades, which is like, you know, if you've been to a gun show, those are there.
yeah. They sell them at the military surplus shop near me. They
Yeah,
have
yeah.
little signs on it that says "Complaint Department, please pull a number," and it's on the pin and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're novelty toys.
Surplus stores, pawn shops have them. Like, I mean, like you can, they say that they had machine guns, but like I'm not really sure that they did or that they weren't allowed to.
Yeah.
Machine gun laws have always been like kind of elusive to me. Like you can buy a full auto under certain circumstances if it's like
Wendigoon-
made in the 80s or something.
Wendigoon
And
explains
this
it
was
as
like
that.
early 90s, so like you can just have an Uzi if you pay the stamp tax for it.
Exactly. That's
So I
what
don't
Wendigo
know.
was saying.
And I think most of the guns they were carrying around were just normal, like
long rifles, and
regular semi-automatic rifles, and just normal guns that, like, yeah, you can have these.
Yeah.
If you're not a felon.
So it was a slow cook until time was ready to overtake the state or something.
Well, I don't think they wanted to take anything over. Their
No.
prophecy is that the state would try to take them over.
Yes.
And eventually they did.
And they learned that gun sales are very profitable. And, like I said, the Wendigo video is really good because he does a good job of answering all these tiny questions. Not saying your question is tiny, but like he explains everything in detail. And one of the things was that their methods for selling weapons was pretty damn economical. They were finding all the different parts for on the cheap and then putting them together and fully assembling them and then selling those.
They bought a bunch of receivers through their license, and then they would just like buy stocks as like surplus and whatever else, like barrels and stuff, and you could kind of like pick what you wanted. Sounds like, I mean, like if this was around, it would be a pretty good place to buy a rifle.
Right.
And there's also the fact of
broken
like
light.
being a church, you do get like a little bit of leeway from the state where like, yeah, it's like the religion is protected. So like, yeah, maybe what they're doing isn't what the average person's doing, but as long as it's not like blatantly illegal, you sort of slide till there's reason to be investigated.
Exactly.
Life and what I did was that I took a 5 and dime store.
I think it would be good to do a video on Rajneeshpuram because they're kind of the Waco, or rather the Branch Davidians, as the media sees Branch Davidians. Like these dudes were actually shitheads, and it would be interesting to show that.
Across and all that, and I was there mounted with a candle. You see.
Now, I would say
And it fell on my
Rajneeshpuram is
chest.
probably the closest of all the cults to
Back in
DSP.
November of 1987,
Because it was
8
just a
heavily
money
armed
scam,
Koresh
the entire
followers in
thing.
battle fatigues advance on a desolate church compound called Rodenville, just outside of Waco, Texas. They're met by a gun-toting
Yeah,
preacher
so they're like
named
running
George
drills
Roden.
and shit
Two or
too.
three of them over there in my house, and that's where I asked them who they were and what they wanted, you see. And so when they answered, they started shooting. So that was the answer I got from them.
When the smoke clears, George Roden is rushed to the hospital with a flesh wound. The 8 suspects are rushed off to jail. The charge, attempted murder. More than a dozen high-powered guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition are seized. It looks like a throwback to the days when Waco was known as Six-Shooter Junction. But as sheriff's deputies search the grounds, a bizarre tale of power and prophecy, greed and guns begins to unfold, with David Koresh at its center.
Please, 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 won't you listen? It's not what it appears to be.
This guy in the back looks so tired. Not another song, David.
28-year-old David Koresh sang of a madman living in Waco, a song made more bizarre by what's happened in the last 2 days. At the time, he was describing George Roden, his rival, in a battle for the hearts and minds of a tiny religious sect called the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventists.
Man, this audio's
David
really
admitted
rough.
leading the raid on Rodenville, but says it wasn't George's life he was after, just pictures of the dead person in this casket. Roden dug up the casket from an unmarked grave a year
So
earlier.
this was when he took over.
Challenged
The
David
resurrection
to a divine
competition.
test. Both
Yeah.
men
And
would
David
try to
cheated.
raise the woman from the dead. Whoever brought her to life was the true prophet.
Whoever God was with was to resurrect this lady.
This was a challenge he made to you?
Yes. And so you hear something like that and you kind of go, well, not today, George, and you just hang the phone up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe a different day for resurrections. Weather's not right for it.
Bowing hers need to bear. Won't you help, Mr. Sheriff? So we won't fail.
David asked the sheriff to charge George for vandalizing a grave, but the sheriff said he needed pictures of the actual body. So David went back to the scene equipped with a camera, army fatigues, and an arsenal of guns.
Why did you need to go with 8 men in army fatigues and submachine
Army
guns?
fatigues. You mean Kmart hiding suits? Submachine guns? We had no submachine guns. There was no automatic weapons. We went there to take the pictures, and then what we would have is we would have legal authorities who would take it into their hands and drive George off the land.
The sheriff says they also had no
Not the
film
best
in their
strategy.
camera. George believes the casket was a cover story.
It's really
that they
weird
really
that what the
came to
sheriff
bury
said
him.
was, yeah,
He
go in
burned
there
down
and
our
get
administration
pictures
building.
of
He
it.
raped my mother, and now he came out here trying to kill me.
Koresh
I guess he
denied
hoped that
these
something would
allegations. At the
be
center
more
of the controversy is a
violent between the
77-acre
two. Maybe, I don't
compound
know.
That was the site of the bloody shootout with federal agents this past Sunday. The compound, now called Mount Carmel, was originally named Rodenville and was founded in 1959 by George's parents.
I feel like
as a
Rodenville
home for the
wasn't
religious
that
sect.
hot. It should
George
have been
feels
Mount
it is
Carmel.
his by birthright.
Because you can
sort of divine
misunderstand
mission.
that. Oh, it's
But David
Rodenville?
built
No,
the
that's
solar compound from the
that's
people who built
Cyrex's
it.
place.
And he took his
Bunch of
followers to
rats.
just outside Palestine, Texas.
The mortal enemies of Boss Man Jed.
Man, I heard he's back.
I haven't kept up with him lately, but
Yeah, I think he got released from prison.
oh wow.
Back to gambling, dude. We could have gotten so many
My
wins in
baby's
this
been
time.
sick also.
Oh
See,
yeah.
I live
Don't
in a
worry, he'll
house,
make up
okay?
for it.
Older people live in 8x12 shacks. Would you want your 83-year-old grandmother to be driven off a place where she'd put time and effort for 25 years, all because a guy thinks he inherited it?
Even back then, Mount Carmel looked more like an armed camp than a religious retreat.
This
The
guy's
entrance
kinda
was
cool
blocked
looking.
by the sort of barricades
That
one
was the
expects to see in
dude who-
Beirut, not in Waco.
Yeah, George
ran
guy.
The
out.
gate is protected just like the White House is. Like they should have protected the boys in Lebanon. And
What is the
contrary,
purpose of that?
well, that's to stop car bombs from coming in and blowing me up or any of the people here.
You expect these people to come back,
It's just a matter of time.
and there'll be another gun battle.
I don't imagine they're coming with BB guns like they said they had before. And it don't look like this is BB gun action to me.
Oh, goodness.
Are you going to go back and take that property by force?
The authorities have it in their hands, and that's where I'm going to keep it from now on.
The bitter struggle between George Roden and David Koresh, which first brought David Koresh to national attention on a current affair, had a bizarre ending. The charges against Koresh and his followers didn't stick, and they were all freed and the charges dropped.
I've never been in trouble my whole life.
But David Koresh is in big
Oh,
trouble
now he's over here to the left.
Trouble prophetically
Yeah.
foreshadowed as long ago as 1987.
I don't believe in people driving off people at gunpoint. When someone fires a gun at you, your way of thinking's totally changed.
Do you consider yourself a prophet?
Let me say this much. I consider myself someone who's found grace in the sight of Christ. And if I can be a prophet to you by giving you a study about the Bible, then yeah, yes, I'm a prophet.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
What else we got? Got this one. Waco.
I think this one's just like that same footage we've already seen, but go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't watched this. I haven't watched the dramatic series of Waco. I should watch it.
I haven't either.
This
Yeah,
is from the show.
Live shit with... No, this is real. I think.
I don't know. I think.
Oh,
this
really?
I think this is the real one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, because this is the angle.
Yep. Yeah, this is... Yeah.
Dang. Pretty accurate, though. Let's go back and see it. It's really blurry and
Yeah,
shitty.
they make
so...
it look like it's old.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, because there's more dudes. Yeah.
And that dude had a bit
falls
more
off. Yeah.
dramatic tumble there.
Yep.
That was pretty cool, though. I should watch it.
And then, yeah, do this one.
What happened to the Waco Siege from the History Channel? Huge fan of the History
Yep.
Channel back when it was about history.
Yeah.
That I used to watch it all the time when I would stay home from school. Yeah, I can't.
I
go
was
to school, I'm
allowed to
sick.
stay up late if I was watching the History Channel.
Oh, that's badass.
So it's like, oh, well, this is a 2-hour show, so I'm allowed to stay up an extra hour.
Necessary. It's educational. You can't tell me not to watch something educational. Whenever I would There is a Calvin and Hobbes strip where he says, "I feel like I learn more when I stay home from school than when I go to school." That's how it was with me in the History Channel. I would stay home and
Yeah.
watch stuff like how do springs get made, stuff like that.
1993, Americans watched breathlessly as FBI agents faced off with a
This one has more
self-proclaimed religious
footage.
prophet and his armed followers in Central Texas. This was the Waco siege.
Yeah, a little shout out the second half.
Weeks-long standoff between the federal government
Pretty scary,
and
eh?
a religious group known as the Branch Davidians. Established by leader Victor Hautef, the Branch
This is
Davidians
gonna be
are
a lot of
Christian
review
sect,
here, but hopefully get
an
something else.
offshoot of
Yeah,
the
there's a lot of
Seventh-day
repeats,
Adventist
but this is
Church,
only 5
with a
minutes
literal
long.
interpretation of the Bible's prophecy.
Yeah,
And I think it shows the
Hautef and a group of his
protesters too.
followers settled near
Yeah, because
Waco.
I know they're in here somewhere.
That's where the Wendigoon video comes in, is that it's essentially equal to 9 documentaries bolted together, because they all these different little documentaries about Waco, they will omit certain things and include other things. So you kind of have to watch 10 to get the full picture.
Texas in
And
1935.
not even to say that it's an
Branch
agenda,
Davidians
just
believe
like
in the
there's
second coming
just
of
so
Jesus
much.
Christ and a
Exactly.
day of judgment
Shit's
in which God will punish the
shit's
wicked
pretty
and
convoluted.
reward the good. In preparation for Judgment Day, the Branch Davidians isolated themselves from the outside world in their commune near Waco. Confined to a 77-acre compound called the Mount Carmel Center,
They
established
isolated themselves.
their
That's why
own
they have
way
a
of life.
visitor center.
The group had gone through
Yeah,
various
yeah.
divisions and changes in leadership before
Yeah,
it
you
was taken
can
over
go.
by a charismatic Bible teacher named
I always
David
thought this
Koresh
picture was
in
really
1990.
haunting.
Koresh
Yeah.
was a self-proclaimed prophet and believed that he was appointed by God to bring about the end of the world. Unlike his predecessors,
Where does
Koresh
low-tier
practiced
God fit
polygamy,
into God's
taking
plan?
a number of underage followers as
Something
wives
about the
who bore his
Matrix.
children.
Yeah, Matrix,
He
Juice,
also
and
collected
BBCs.
guns and ammunition in preparation for the coming apocalypse. Word eventually reached federal authorities that the cult was illegally stockpiling weapons. On February 28, 1993, agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms arrived at the Mount Carmel compound, armed with search warrants for the property and an arrest warrant for Koresh. Gunfire erupted, although it's unclear which side started it. At the end of the 2-hour standoff, 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians were dead. The FBI intervened. Nearly 900 members of law enforcement descended on the compound, including Texas Rangers, Army personnel, and National Guardsmen. For weeks, FBI negotiators bargained with Koresh, bringing in supplies and allowing him to sermonize on the radio in a bid to get him to surrender. Though he allowed
What
a number
locale
of Davidians to
do you
leave,
think is realistically
Koresh
closer
displayed
to
no
do something
signs
like
of
this?
turning himself in.
Damn.
Well, it's kind of
I
hard
don't
to
know
say
if
'cause
there
they're all
is
kind of
one.
cowardly, but
Yeah, and I don't think they have like devoted followers.
not really. I guess I could say someone like Low Tier God, because of their followers, his is probably the most indoctrinated. But
Oh, actually, Owen Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin,
Yep.
who's that?
So he used to be like a Hollywood comedian, and then he built like basically a compound far away from everybody and started not quite a cult, although I haven't checked in on him recently, but like he's pretty anti-government. He has some people that like really buy his bullshit. He might be the closest.
Do we need to
Or
do a
doesn't
video on him?
doesn't Ethan Ralph have a compound in fucking Mexico?
Something like that. I always imagine he lives in an actual shack. Like he's got 6 or 5 sheets of corrugated metal just kind of taped together. I hope so.
Owen Benjamin, though, I think would be like he's got like a homestead and he's
Let me
got
see
a
this
bunch
dude.
of guns, and he was like drinking turpentine the last time I saw him.
Owen Benjamin, this dude here. Damn. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, he seems
You'll
like an
wanna go
interest.
for the. See, it doesn't. I don't think it has like. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Some of that stuff about his views, maybe. White nationalism.
Anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, Holocaust denial, and eugenics. All right. Moon landing did not occur.
Some of that might be slander, but some of it's definitely true.
Been banned from social media and in their engagement.
Anything. But he's
there you go.
He's like crazy and like isolated.
After Benjamin began working on a project to create a compound on property he owns in Idaho, county residents filed a complaint with county commissioners over allegations that he had violated zoning provisions, while also expressing concerns he was forming a Ruby Ridge-style compound on the property.
Yeah.
All right, so this dude.
He's probably the closest. I don't think he's quite there. Like, I don't think he's actually that dangerous, but he's the closest.
That's good, Fourth Reddit.
And I haven't checked in on him for a while. I watched him go crazy and then lost track of him.
Yeah, we need to do an episode about him.
And also, there's nothing wrong with having a compound.
No, I want a compound.
Yeah. I would be absolutely for it.
Yeah, I'd be stoked.
You could get like a few people that you can trust together and just have houses on the same property.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like, I would love to, if there's ever some sort of apocalypse, my go-to strategy is I'm going to turn a cul-de-sac into a compound. I think that'd be really sick. 'Cause
I would just show up to people who already have one and be like, I'll do what you say. Because like, I don't own a farm, dude. Like, I'm not like a very good hunter. I'm not a very good farmer. It's like food and water become the issues, and it's like, yeah, I'll sit up in that tower all day.
Yeah, wait.
As long as I get food and water, yeah.
You're the second coming of Christ? I believe you.
Yeah, fine by me.
Yeah, that all checks out.
Tactics. They turned off the electricity, blasted loud music, and flashed harsh spotlights into the compound's windows. That didn't work either. After a 51-day standoff, Attorney General Janet Reno gave the FBI...
And we've done everything we could to piss these suits off. Why are they so pissed?
On April 19th, 1993, tanks rolled in and punched holes in its walls and deposited nearly 400 canisters of tear gas inside
holy
the building.
crap!
Yeah.
Several hours later, a fire broke out.
That may have been able to start a fire. 400 tear gas.
Yeah, because all you need is one faulty one.
Just the spark that ignites it.
Winds fanned the flames and reduced the entire property to ash within an hour. Around 80 Branch Davidians died, including David Koresh and 25 children. While most died from fire and smoke inhalation, 2 members were found with fatal bullet wounds to the head. 4 federal agents were also killed during that siege. Several months later, a federal grand jury indicted
12 I will be your menacing leader
for unlawful possession of firearms and aiding the murder of federal officers. Many believe the government's actions were overly aggressive and maybe even illegal.
Many people believe?
The raid drew sharp public criticism, and controversy swirled over whether or not federal agents started the fire and shot the Branch Davidians. At the center of the storm was Janet Reno, issued the final order to raid the compound. In 1999, she appointed independent counsel John Danforth to investigate the incident. Danforth concluded that the agents were not responsible and placed the blame squarely on Koresh and his followers for setting the blaze and shooting themselves.
It seems like the good guys always win in every scenario in history.
The investigation failed to satisfy critics who, to this day, believe in conspiracy theories of a federal cover-up. For some
I don't even really think they had to cover it up.
Patriot militias,
just said we didn't do it.
Evidence of a government willing to use its power.
It's kind of like DSP's diplomacy. He doesn't really make an effort to cover up anything he does. Not really. He maybe deletes a video here and there. But... He'll just say, "Dude, I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about." Well, here's the evidence. Yeah, I'm not looking at that.
Own people.
What's the main doctrine in Lynn's compound? Mandatory JoJo posts every morning? Well, Real Ultimate Power is going to be required reading.
Radicalized by Waco, McVeigh would retaliate for what he saw as the injustices of the Waco siege by bombing a federal building in Oklahoma City, exactly 2 years to the day of the siege at Mount Carmel.
That's pretty aggressive, man.
Crazy. What else we got here?
Yeah, inside the deadly Waco siege.
This one's goes more in. This one's good. Goes more into like what actually happened.
Okay, and then
That's an interview with a dude who left, and I think is still on Koresh's side. which we can watch. Yeah, watch this one first. It's only 4 minutes.
Okay.
David Thibodeau had that perspective. He was one of only 9 people who survived that horror, and he
this
wrote
was
about
recent.
it. He wrote about everything in a book called Waco, A Survivor's Story, and he's live with me now this week on this 30th anniversary. David, thank you so much for joining me on this very inauspicious occasion. I still can't believe it's 30 years, and I wonder, having lived through it, if you have felt every one of those years.
What?
That's an odd
absolutely.
question. There's periods of time that go by. It's almost like a dream. It's like you're trying to make a living. You're trying to get by, do what everybody else is doing. And all of a sudden you turn the TV on and there's the conflagration, there's the building burning. You're like, oh, that really did happen. What's happened, recently I'd say in the last 5 years is I wrote a book out of frustration. Many of the things that you said in the introduction to this, there's many misconceptions still to this day. Many, what I think are kind of propaganda techniques that are still being used. And the entire truth still hasn't really
This
been
interview
told.
isn't going as planned.
And you need more than just the government telling you what's going on. You need first people perspectives. Which
Can you
most
take
people
me inside?
haven't-
David, tell me
I'm sorry.
what
You're
it was
speaking
like
too much truth
inside.
right now.
Because
Gotta
we
interrupt
only saw what was going on outside, but from your perspective, what was happening inside?
Well, I would like to talk about David Koresh. He was the only person that was on that warrant to get him. He jogged in front of their house every day. ATF had a surveillance house. They could have and should have gotten him outside of the building. They did not need to come in with 75 armed men and helicopters in the back of the building. The way they chose to serve that warrant, I think, was criminal. They knew that they had lost the element of surprise and they went forward with it anyway. These are things that, this all could have been avoided. That's what I've been saying for years and years and years. And you want to know what's going on during the siege. Many things. It was a terrible lack of communication between the negotiators and the tactical commanders. Now, there were times that people were coming out pretty smoothly. First 2, then 3, and then a few more would come out. And then the tactical commanders would start to put the pressure on, and the tanks would run over our property at the outset of the building. They'd start running over the cars. They would run over some graves that we had in front of the building. There was a place where Peter Gent was buried. And they would do things to antagonize the people inside that building. And we couldn't understand for the life of us why, if things were going smoothly, are you putting the pressure on? There's a professor that I've been working with from Beaumont, Texas. He did analysis of. There's a book that the FBI uses in a situation like this. There's something like 26 violations of their own first steps. If they want to get people out of a building, they have plans in place. They have a rule book. 26 different times they violated their own rules. How do they expect there to be a harmony and for people to come out of that building?
David, I want to have you back for a very fulsome conversation. We had a manhunt that ended tonight, and I would have liked to have a longer conversation with you, but I'm up against a hard end to the show, and I'd love to have you back. In the meantime, I do want to tell our viewers your book is called Waco, A Survivor's Story.
That sounds like a good read.
Coming on, and I look forward to our next conversation. David Thibodeau, thanks.
Let me see. Hold on. I got to check real quick. How much is that on Amazon? Rico. Survivor's Story. Come on, I'm not. No captchas. Just go to the damn link. $20. All right.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah,
right.
that might be something to read.
Thank you for watching.
All right, so this is inside the deadly Waco siege negotiations.
5 men around our building and they're shooting at us in Mount Carmel. Tell them there are children and women in here and to call it off. I hear gunfire. Oh, shit.
Good evening, friends. It has been over 36 hours now since federal agents first confronted a heavily armed religious cult near Waco. They were met by a hail of gunfire, killing 4 of the agents and wounding over a dozen others.
This event was totally unprecedented in law enforcement history.
Well, the leader of this Branch Davidians cult calls himself David Koresh.
ATF, you boys are wrong.
David was a manipulator and a liar.
Stalemate. The cult members
This
breaking
dude
their
says
promise
something
to
so
surrender.
metal.
It was 51 days of very dedicated and difficult negotiations.
More than 80 people are believed to have died in yesterday's fiery conclusion to the 51-day siege, 24 of them children.
It was the most horrific crime scene I'd ever seen.
Where's
What
the
you see
metal?
on TV is about 90% Hollywood
You'll know it when
and
he says
10%
it.
accurate. There's been a very skillful effort to rewrite history, and I refuse to let that stand. My name is Byron Sage. I was there when the Branch Davidian siege began, all the way through until it ended tragically on the 19th of April. I'd been a negotiator in the FBI since 1976. Of February
This dude definitely
28,
looks like he's seen some shit.
1993. It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
My wife and I were getting our boys up to get ready to go to church. I was just getting ready to jump in the shower and the phone rang. It was my boss who said, "Byron, there's been a raid that has gone horribly wrong. I need you to proceed as soon as you can to the Waco area and assist with negotiations." I got ready to go and sped up to Waco. Red light, siren, a lot of prayers.
Dang.
We had no prior knowledge that ATF was going to conduct a raid that day. We knew that
That's
they had
definitely by the
an
book.
investigation.
Oh, yeah. It's good to keep
into
people
the
informed.
Branch Davidian,
The surprise
and we had
attack was such a
parallel
surprise no one else knew
interest
about
into allegations
Yeah,
of,
only the Branch
violations
Davidians
of
knew it was
civil
coming.
rights and child abuse and so forth.
The siege began Sunday morning when ATF agents went to the Branch Davidian compound near Waco to arrest cult leader David Koresh on weapons charges.
When ATF rolled in to conduct their lawful execution of a search warrant and an arrest warrant for Vernon Howell, they were met by simultaneous gunfire from over 40 different shooting positions. That's not an arbitrary response to what they claimed later in court was an overzealous action by ATF. That's garbage.
The cult, actually called or known as the Branch Davidians, is an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
As far as the Branch Davidian sect, the only thing I really knew about them was that they were a self-isolated group that lived in a large communal setting, and that David was very controlling of those individuals that were there to listen to his ministry. We had also heard that they had a substantial
there you go.
number
Now,
of
holy shit.
weapons and possibly ammunition at the location. So I knew of them, but I didn't know a lot about them. That was very soon to change. As I'm entering into the Waco area, I'm diverted to join with the negotiation that was ongoing over the emergency line, the 911 line.
But I believe this line is open into the compound in case we need to do some negotiation.
The gun battle is still raging about 8 miles northeast. It wasn't in Waco, by the way. It occurred near a small area known as Elk. Later in the media, they told me flat out, you know, Byron, think about it, the Waco from Elk or the Waco from Waco?
I'm sorry some of you guys
yeah, it's all
got
about
shot,
branding.
But, hey, God will have to sort that out, won't he?
The best thing that you could do as a negotiator is listen to the individual to try to get the story behind what brought us to this point. When I first got on the phone with Howell, I introduced myself, and then I said, Mr. Howell, how do you want me to refer to you, or what do you want me to call you? David is speaking with gunshots being fired in the background, people screaming, and very calmly, too calmly, he says, Agent Sage, have you ever heard a person die? And I said, yes, I have. He said, then you know how to pronounce my name. He said, it's like that last breath, the death knell. It's Koresh. And he drug it out. we both knew that we were in
extremely metal.
Yeah, that's
very
pretty
difficult situation.
Yeah, that's spooky as hell. I like it.
Yeah.
Now,
And like, who
David,
knows if
no
anything of what this
question,
dude is
was
saying is true.
100% in charge.
If it's not
of those
true,
people
this dude should do more
inside the
writing.
Branch
Well, actually,
Davidian.
it is true because he
had
investigated himself
slowly
and
but
discovered that
subtly
he was right.
not only taken over control of the ministry,
That's pretty handy.
but every aspect of their life. So you're speaking to a very manipulative man. We were finally able to get an agreement that David would order his people to cease firing, and we would get an
I should
assurance
write a
that
metal
ATF
song.
would
Maybe
cease
just the
firing.
lyrics.
We offered
I
to
can't do
send
any
in
music.
medical
We can have AI do
assistance,
it.
and they refused it. Now, it's important to realize that although I was the first negotiator from the FBI, we eventually would have
Man, there was so much
52
plaid back then. Holy
of
shit.
the best
Oh, yeah,
negotiators
dude.
I've ever worked with.
Yeah, there's
We
like
fell
old
into
pictures of me
a-
and my family
a
in flannel
routine,
shirts, and my mom
talking
has
to
like
David,
80s
talking
hair.
to Steve
Hell
Schneider
yeah, man.
for the ensuing
My
days.
dad had hair like this. Hold on, I gotta go back.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to Steve
Yeah, he had this dude's hair over here in the
Oh,
dark side.
yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
I had hair like that.
Schneider
You know, there's
for the
nothing stopping us from
ensuing
bringing this
days.
back.
The average length
I've debated
of a
mullet.
hostage barricade type situation in the United States is 6 to 8 hours. This event was totally unprecedented in law enforcement history. We had done a number of things to try to induce a surrender by David. We had aired a 58-minute sermon that he had prepared and promised. As soon as we aired the sermon, that he and all of his followers would immediately come out. They did not.
I, David Koresh, agree upon the broadcasting of this tape to come out peacefully with all the people.
He was a liar, and it was very difficult to not lose your temper with him. Every single day that he remained in there, he'd been ordered to exit the building and to face charges of murder, attempted murder, and a number of things. He knew that in addition to that, he was going to be facing charges of child molestation, sexual exploitation of children. He was not looking at a very easy time in custody. He wasn't budging.
The cult leader, David Koresh, told the FBI he hadn't surrendered as promised because God had told him to wait.
We would eventually get a total of 21 children released.
And Coca-Cola class.
21 children have been released since the standoff began
Perfect for
February
cult,
28th. Most
showdowns.
came out with messages from their parents listing relatives that might take them.
I'm very proud of that, and I'm relieved and thankful for each and every one of them. We kept after David, kept after Steve about sending more children out.
You got to argue with me, you catch me on the side of the road somewhere, you come and argue with me. You come point guns in the direction of my wives and my kids, I'll meet you at the door any time.
Finally, David, on the 7th of March, got a little peeved. He kind of barked at the negotiator and said, "Hey, you're not dealing with those other kids anymore. These are my children. They're not coming out." That was a huge setback.
Here, the FBI says it's doing everything it can to ensure that none of the 90 adults and 18 children in this cult comes to any harm.
We needed to be patient and try to expend every effort to get these people out peacefully before we resorted to a tactical resolution.
Koresh has been playing
But what
loud
happened with
rock
that, eh?
music, exploding into tirades on the phone with
There
the
seems like they-
FBI. There's nothing to suggest.
It sure seems like a lot of it in retrospective. They had all these grand plans for how everything was going to work, and it made it sound like they were so thought out in their plans. But then when you actually see it all unfold and you see what happened minute by minute during the process, it often looked like they had zero plan whatsoever.
Yeah, it was a complete clusterfuck. The ATF showed up wanting to have a shootout. They did. And then the FBI came in and said, whoa, 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 what's going on here? We got it from here. And then they did a bad job too.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're dealing with people that can't really be reasoned with to begin with. But it's like, yeah, that's why you, like, when they take down a mob boss, they don't go get him like in his hideout.
Yeah.
They get him when he's like going out to get the mail or something.
Right, exactly. It definitely seems kind of self-serving that they had this narrative afterwards.
He's giving up soon.
He has made such statements as, "We are ready for war. Let's get it on. Your talk is becoming in vain."
We would eventually get a total of 35 individuals out, including the 21 children. But ultimately, David continued to refuse to come out.
We're not negotiating. We're saying come out. Come out with your hands up. This matter is over.
On the morning of April 19, 1993, that's a day that will live with me forever, our intention was to force, through the use of tear gas, the systematic exit of all of the Branch Davidians. David would come out with the children, then the women, and lastly the men. Both Steve and David had agreed to all of it. The majority of the windows were barricaded with mattresses or with bales of hay. It was clear that they were angling or prepared for this final confrontation. We estimated that it would take up to 48 hours to systematically saturate the far ends of the compound, drive them to the center and out the door.
Have they ever made? No, that's a dark subject. I was not going to ask that.
Opened fire on our vehicles. Those
I rage quit out of that one.
They were rigged with sparklers from the bullets bouncing off the. It was amazing. It was like 4th of July in a very depressing realization that they were engaging us instead of coming out as they had promised. When they tried to open the front door with the CEV boom, it was barricaded. So there was no way those Branch Davidians could have come out the front door as they had agreed to do. The tanks, they commenced to poke several holes along the front and south side of the compound in order to give them a means to exit.
From the roof.
We would see those kids screaming out of that building, but
the kids could just jump out.
We never did.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill, guys.
Come on now.
Just use Pi.
See what some comments are
It's a
saying.
extension that's actually made by one of the founders of Honey, and it basically blocks ads for you. Like, imagine watching.
Yeah, there you go. There's a good quote right there. Look at this. I was a kid when this happened, and it was all over the news. I asked my dad what happened, and he said they didn't pay their taxes. Scared me for life. Yeah.
We had microphones that we had inserted into the compound. Once you cleared out the background noise, you could make out conversations. The first one we made out, very much after the fact, was Steve Schneider hanging up on me. He ordered 2 things. Put on your tear gas masks, and then the second thing, a minute or 2 later, he said, spread the fuel. Almost 12 noon, about 5 to 10 minutes after the last insertion of tear gas, my partner came running in. He said, give me the mic, give me the mic. And he said, we've just observed somebody appeared to be pouring some liquid and has lit a fire. Come out of there immediately. That place is on fire.
Damn.
When we saw the fire take hold and start spreading swiftly, by this time, there's about a 35-knot wind blowing right through the compound, through those holes that we had punched in the building.
Oops.
Not realizing we had turned that building into just a funnel for the fire to take hold. My demands that turned to requests became pleas. David, don't do this. Don't end this way. You claim to be a savior. Save those people in there. Lead them out now, before it's too late. A total of 9 adults came out that last day, the 19th of April. The rest of the people elected to stay inside or were forced to stay inside. I don't know. One of them brought out a dog. Not one brought out a child.
I believe Wendigo
They
also goes
began
into
to
this
give
is that
orders
the
to
structure was that the
Davidians
kids
who
were in a
came out
bunker down in the
and
basement.
took them into custody. And when I heard that, I made probably the toughest decision I have ever made in 50 years in law enforcement to this day. I elected to turn off the microphones, which represented 51 days of very dedicated and difficult negotiations. It also
It sounds like it was rough for this dude.
acknowledged that we had not gotten them all out. In essence, we had failed. I'm not in the business of failure. This hit me hard. I looked around the corner at that building. By this time, it was nearly fully engulfed. I looked and pleaded that we'd see those kids. Nowhere to be seen. As I'm looking at it, I'm still, I don't know, I guess I was in shock or I was emotionally devastated. Jeff Jamar, who is a good friend of mine, the on-scene commander, came over to me and put his arm around my shoulder, and he said, well, it looks like negotiations are over. You've got
He has a
the
way with
crime
words.
scene. I ended up helping to exhume 2 of the bodies that were in that compound. I don't know why I did that to myself, but, you know, I was there to get a job done, and I was going to help get it done. You know, these could have been people I'd been talking to for 51 days. There was already a lot of questions starting to come up about, you know, how could this have happened? How could we have allowed all these people to die? Well, we didn't. They elected to stay in there at David's direction. We officially turned the crime scene
Yeah, see, as you
over
can
to-
see, hold on. As you can see right here. Right here, the core is taken out. These are the fake grenades that we brought up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I had one of these for a while. I had one of these fake grenades. And yeah, that's how you know it's fake, is that the core has been extracted through the bottom.
Yep.
And yeah, so those aren't real.
We officially turned the crime scene over to McLennan County Sheriff's Office, and that was about midday on the 6th of May. I packed up and headed home. The rest is history. I carry this with me to this day. I celebrate those 21 kids that we got out. I know that they've been influenced by some of this negative propaganda, but I hope that they also will seek out the truth and come to realize that it was their parents that elected not to come out.
Those children are dead because David Koresh had them killed. There's no question about that. He had those fires started. He had 51 days to release those children. He chose those children to die.
There was not one shot fired by the Bureau or by any other law enforcement or ninja outfits, as I've heard people claim were there. They were not there.
Oh, shit.
It's just total garbage to inflame the public.
But
I think we saw videos that showed otherwise.
yeah, there was plenty of gunfire going off.
They were definitely shooting.
Now, I don't know why he brought ninjas into this. We had nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah, right?
My job in the FBI for nearly 30 years was to protect and defend the citizens of this country against all enemies, foreign or domestic. The biggest problem that I think the general public does not know is that this is a systematic effort, quite successful effort, to undermine the credibility and the trust of the American public in agencies like the FBI. And I refuse to to allow that to happen as long as I'm alive.
I don't know. I feel like that's definitely his heart is in the right place, but I feel that that's
Yeah, there's definitely good FBI agents, and he might be one of them. But there's also quite a few bad ones.
Yep.
And I think we're about to learn about a lot more bad ones than we knew before very soon.
Yeah. All right, so
we could watch the Wendigoon thing, but like honestly, I think maybe people should just watch. Well, we could watch the third segment there.
This one here, Trouble in
Keep
Paradise.
going. Keep going. Right, yeah, like right back a little bit, right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Like we can watch that segment, and then I have a couple funny videos we can watch to close it down.
Okay, good. Hey, and do you want to put?
I don't know how late we're going, but
no, that's cool. That sounds like a good setup there. Could you throw the link to this video in the chat for anyone
the Wendigoon video?
Yeah, for anyone who wants to watch the full thing.
Yeah, because that that's a great video.
Wendigoon's autistic as shit. He goes into so much detail with these events. I really liked his coverage of the California bank robbery. Like he was giving you minute by minute what the dude was doing. You know, this guy at this point he scratched his ass, and the officer looked over and happened, and then he put his hand back on the rifle. It was kind of annoying, but also extremely in depth.
YouTube
to take place.
People.
So while driving towards the area, he pulled over and asked a postman if he knew how to get to the Branch Davidian compound because a big ATF raid was about to go down. Unbeknownst to that reporter, the postman that he just asked was David Koresh's brother-in-law, another Branch Davidian. So Koresh's brother-in-law hops in his car, speeds to the compound, and warns everyone that a raid's about to happen. According to whatever the reporter said, it was going to be loud and violent, and everyone in Mount Carmel started to panic. Koresh ran to Agent Rodriguez, who, if you'll remember, is supposed to be undercover at this time. But David
undercover dude, stop
and begins
this.
to beg Rodriguez to call the ATF and to call off the raid. Rodriguez plays dumb and slips out the front door. He says that as he was leaving, everyone began to pray. Also, to get across how ready the ATF was for a fight, not only did they roll up dozens of agents in full kit, but they also wrote their blood type on their wrist and neck in case they were shot and needed a quick transfusion. At this time, there were about 115 people within Mount Carmel. The women and children began to hide in their rooms while several of the men took up arms. Koresh and the others assumed that the ATF was going to come loud and was looking to make an example. It's here that we start to get into discrepancies, and normally I would tell the whole story in a straight run through of the official report and then go back and talk about the theory surrounding it, but this event is so long I'm just going to hit the discrepancies as we get to them. Okay. Beginning with the question of who shot first. At about 9:45, the agents roll up in covered trailers and begin to surround the front door of the premises. Koresh comes outside with his arms up and tells them to stop because there's women and kids in there. While everyone is yelling back and forward, someone fires a shot. Now initially it was declared by all of the agents that one of the Davidians shot first. However, later reports would recant this. The two leading theories is that either one of the agents fired after seeing a Davidian holding a gun in a window, or that part of the ATF's dog kill team, who was sent forward, according to some of the reports I read, with the intention of shooting the dogs first, went forward and shot the Branch Davidian's
Classic
dogs.
ATF move.
Again, insert joke about shooting dog here. These dogs were shot by the...
I mean, if you have a dedicated team to do it, you can understand why people are going to make that association with you.
Agents, and this seems to be the most likely moment that would have happened. This caused the rest of the agents to erupt into gunfire, and the gunfight started. A big point in contention of deciding who shot first was the right door at the front of Mount Carmel. See, David was standing just outside of the door with his hands raised in the air, and in the initial gunshots he was hit in the stomach and hand. He immediately ducked back inside of the door and closed it behind him. The rest of the shooting, or at least the vast majority of it, came from the upper windows of the compound. Reports would later say that David probably got shot whenever he went up to a different floor or began to engage the officers. However, the evidence on that front door shows several bullet holes, implying that the ATF fired at David while he was standing outside for a few seconds, which would mean they would have had to be the ones to take the first shots. This front door with this supposed evidence totally disappeared. Even after everything that went down, the left door was retained in evidence and in fine condition. The right door disappeared off the face of the earth, and according to one agent who later testified against his initial report, he said that he saw a group of investigators after the whole standoff was over, loading it into the back of a U-Haul. In the following congressional hearings, the door was never recovered. Crazy how evidence like a door can just fly away. Wayne Martin, one of the Davidians, called the local police and asked them to get on the phone with agents and to stop shooting, continuing to exclaim that they were shot at first and now the women and kids are in danger.
Yeah, the 75 men around our building and they're shooting at us in Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel? Yeah, tell them there are children and women in here to call it off. I hear gunfire. Who is it? Wayne. Tell me what's happening, Wayne. We are women and children in danger.
God damn, man.
Wayne. I'm under fire. I'm gonna call around. What? I'm gonna pull back. I have a right to defend myself. They started firing first.
During this initial gunfight, the first agent was shot whenever he tried to make his way around to the back of the compound and was hit by a shooter in a top window, and helicopters began low-flying back and forward, supposedly to draw attention away from the men on the ground. However, according to many of the survivors, these helicopters were shooting at them. Just as they had trained, the officers began putting up ladders on the front of the building in order to make their entry into the top floors of the compound, where they expected the majority of the weapons would be, according to Rodriguez's report. While gathering outside of the window, the three initial agents who crowded around it began to be shot at, before they throw a stun into the room and make their entry. During this entry, you can see where bullet holes are flying out of the wall, being shot from inside, and this results in another agent being hit and then falling off the roof. While not on video, according to the ATF, on entry another agent was killed, and they in turn killed a Davidian who fired at them. While searching for weapons, they were then ambushed by another Davidian, where 2 more agents were injured, and then that Davidian was killed. The agents then make their exit from the window. One agent hits his head and then falls down the roof, as the agents begin to take cover behind the Davidians' vehicles and return fire. This shooting continued at a high rate for 45 minutes, and only then slowed down because the agents started to run out of ammo. Even then, the gunfight itself continued, with the agents occasionally firing rounds for 2 hours. The sheriff, as well as others on the scene, say that the altercation only quit because they ran dry. Once they were out, the Davidians said that the ATF could come retrieve their wounded and dead, and on the ATF side, 4 agents had been killed and 16 were injured. On the Davidian side, 5 had been killed and several more injured, again including Koresh himself. The Davidians began to collect their dead and bury them in the cemetery on the property. While the men who buried their dead were walking back inside, one of them was shot and killed by the ATF. According to the ATF, this guy had decided to start firing at them, although this has never been confirmed. This makes the casualty count for the first day 6 Davidians and 4 ATF. As soon as this happened, it became a media storm. Initially, it was just this weird group in Texas who a few people knew about, who were being investigated on weapons charges by the ATF.
You had those
but
videos
now
lined up?
it had become an open gunfight with 10 dead.
Yeah.
So at this point, it was off to the races, with journalists and news crews from across the country showing up. The situation was then taken over by the FBI. The FBI took it over because once a federal agent is killed, it then becomes their case. Specifically, the situation was taken over by the FBI HRT, or Hostage Response Team. This was conveniently the same team who was at Ruby Ridge. In the initial hours, David began to call local news teams and began doing interviews and explaining what had happened. Of course, David maintained that they were fired upon first by the ATF. In response to this, the FBI cut the phone lines so that way David couldn't speak to anyone that they didn't want him to, and ran a phone line directly from the negotiators to him so that that was the only means of communication. However, what little David did manage to say became all the rage within the media frenzy. He talked about how they were fired upon first and how it was his right as an American to defend himself and to stand up to tyranny and blah blah blah. And many began to view the Davidians' actions as defensive violence. Over the following days, Koresh spoke to the FBI negotiators for hundreds of hours. He would talk about his family, he would talk about the Bible, he would ask about the negotiator's life.
If you die, you tell me, if you die from that wound, I want you to tell me what's going to happen.
Well, I'm not going to be around anymore, am I, to influence anybody, right?
David, listen.
Oh, Jim. Listen.
This has been painful for us. Come on.
Listen, Jim. There's nothing that hurts me more than being called a cult leader, all right? If I'm wrong, people like me don't deserve to live, okay?
Listen.
You understand me, Jim. If you let the people think, because, they're all scared around here now. Don't burn our building down.
Oh, we won't do that.
Don't shoot us all up. They've got to have that time.
But David, if you die, you're leaving your people helpless.
Look, they're God's people.
But if
I'm just an instrument, okay? I show them out of a book what God teaches. But it is for them to decide.
And for a while, they just existed in the stalemate with the FBI encircling the compound and the Davidians inside, just waiting for something to happen. This is why earlier I was emphasizing the difference between a typical doomsday cult who's just anticipating the end and the Davidians who were prepared to hold out until the end. Throughout the FBI's internal logs, Jonestown was constantly brought up. The negotiators and the FBI in general was not understanding the mental concept of what the Davidians were trying to say. They just assumed, oh, crazy religious cult here, do crazy religious cult thing over here. And they were waiting at any moment for the group to either drink the Kool-Aid or go out in a blaze of glory. However, after several days, nothing happened. No. The group who had provisions to wait out the war with Babylon were just sitting inside waiting for the next move. Eventually, David said that he had a message for the American people, and if they played it on the news, then he would willingly surrender. The FBI kept up their side of the bargain and played the message. However, after it was played, David said that God decided he was not yet to come out.
He gave us his word that after the message was played...
yes, but what if there What do you think of that move? Do you think that was a good or bad move, or what do you think about that?
What, to say actually change of plans?
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely does not inspire trust with the negotiators.
No, definitely. And
he should have said he'll let a few people out if they play it, and then did it. Because, I don't know if, he wanted to live.
Yeah, I don't think I think he was ready for that to go.
Yeah, I think this was the prophecy, and it was happening as prophesied, and that was how it was going to be.
To an individual. If there is a God in this universe, and there's the laws of man, and there's the laws of God, and this God that has led him all his life says to him to wait, what do you do?
We find no incidents.
Or maybe he actually believed it.
It could be.
Then it's a little different.
Yeah. And we don't know how it could have gone. They could have just started shooting the second he started walking out.
Yep.
Negotiation takes a statement transcript of Koresh line. On March the 2nd, he said he was coming out and then said God told him not to. If any lies were told, it was that, and we would have to know what God said to Koresh in order to call that a lie.
Do you people believe that Koresh is actually talking to God?
Koresh believes he's talking to God.
This is again another discrepancy. One either views this as Koresh playing hooky with the FBI, or the FBI making things difficult. See, in the midst of all this, where David's explaining, why did you shoot at us, this is my vision from God, can you play this message? The FBI was doing stuff like rolling tanks up to the compound and cutting off power to the entire facility, and just generally being crude.
They were mooning the women, for instance. They would drop their pants and bend over and bare their rear end to people that were looking out the windows, which was, not a situation that some of the women or even some of the men took too lightly, in the sense, well, do we want to send our children out to these kind of people?
Steve, every time we're aware of movement, we've told you about controlling these guys. I mean, if you got guys out there right now pulling their pants down, men that are mature, they're sticking their butts out in the air and flipping the finger.
Give me a moment. See, the guys that gravitate toward, riding in tanks, jumping out of airplanes and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're just going to be people who move,
Right?
Yeah.
So when they get a chance to use...
That's why in Vietnam, they were always flying over the forest and moving people.
A lot of kids in there. Absolutely. Opportunity to... Hey, let's drive this baby and see how it works.
Sure, but somebody's got to be above these guys.
Well,
those vehicles and what they're doing do not show what is coming out of the mouths of some of you guys.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. There is this division. There is this division between the negotiators and then the people on the ground. And I mean, it was brought up a couple times in some of the previous videos, but it's one of those things that factored into why this was a shit show. Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. And like they were playing weird noises and like shining lights in the windows and just like I get it. You are in a gunfight, but like the women looking out the windows are not. And like there's something to be said that it's like, well, yeah, the Branch Davidians are obviously behaving badly, but like you're the law. So like, yeah, criminals might moon you or give you the finger or like say bad words to you or throw piss at you. But like when you're the cops, you're not supposed to do that. Like you're supposed to be the good guys. And like you're not really exhibiting good guy behavior. And not only are the people inside there seeing that you're supposed to be negotiating with, but everyone else is seeing it too.
Yes.
And it really, like, the point of doing this was to make the ATF look good. And this is what they did.
The ATF moons people.
For one reason or another, David decided...
If a cop that stops me in a traffic stop flips me off, I'm going to be less likely to work with them.
Yeah. I'm gonna hear footsteps approach my window, roll down the window, and there's gonna be an ass hanging there.
Just an ass, yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, what's going on here, man? This isn't respectful.
Yeah, this wasn't the Ace Ventura bullshit is this?
Yeah, exactly.
That he was not going to come out. The negotiator asked if he could send out some of the children, and David said he'd be happy to send out anyone who doesn't want to be there. The ones that chose to leave were several mothers, as well as 19 children aged 5 months to 12 years old. That meant that 23 children were still inside the building. After this departure, about 98 people remained inside of Mount Carmel. The mothers were immediately separated from their children and arrested, and the children were immediately taken to be interviewed. Keep in mind, the media frenzy around this entire thing is the story of child abuse, and that the ATF and FBI are doing the heroic thing by trying to save these children from these monsters. So whenever the children were set down in question, they were asked about child abuse. Now, during the time of the standoff, it was seen as a 100% cut and dry evidence that the children said they were being abused by their parents and Koresh. However, there is no logs or records of any of this happening. As a matter of fact, according to people who were there and later testified, there was zero evidence that there was ongoing child abuse. Because the story at this point had not just escalated from Koresh being a creep to young girls into the idea that a bunch of the parents were being creeps. The story now was that as the standoff was going on, the children inside were actively being tortured. And the interrogators used leading questions to get vague answers that further justified this. David said that he wanted a video footage of himself and his followers so that the outside world could see what they were about. So on day 9, the FBI sent in a video camera and the Davidians began recording.
And bringing these tanks and stuff around here, I tell you what, being an American first, I'm the kind of guy that I'll stand in front of a tank, you can run over me, but I'll be biting one of the tracks. No one's going to hurt me or my family. That's American policy here. You could have arrested me any day as I jogged up and down this road. You could have arrested me going to town or going to Walmart. Waco was going to bear witness.
Yeah, Walmart was different back during that time.
The two agents across the street over here, Robert Gonzalez, I love the guy. I was honest with him. I brought him into my home. He was going to stay here for 2 weeks. All this stuff you guys may want to avoid and deny. You know, he wanted to tour around the place. I promised him a tour. He could have talked to any of these guys around here, anybody. He was free to come and go as he chose. And I do not appreciate it, and never will I ever appreciate somebody coming here with 2 helicopters and cattle trailers and all that, and pushing people around with guns. Hey, I'll meet you at the doorstep any day. You know, and somebody will get hurt. If you want to keep playing that game, I'm talking to you. Somebody's going to...
And along with what you said earlier about the FBI and the police are supposed to be the good guys, another thing you want to never make the mistake of doing is make the bad guy look reasonable.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here, is this guy is making complete sense right now.
Yeah.
And that's a failing on their part, you know?
Yeah.
To get hurt, because this ain't America anymore when the ATF has that kind of power to come into anybody's home and kick doors down and things like that. You know, I do understand, someone reminded me of this, I do understand that one of the officers says his gun went off on accident. And that, you know, that was just like a signal and all that, you know. But look, beside the point, ATF, you boys are wrong. Your practices, your habits, yeah. Drug dealers, fine. You know, but even there's always a question, if there's any question whatsoever. The kids or women are involved, damn you, I tell you what, you keep your damn gun in your holster. You send a couple of big, brave, invincible kind of men, you let them knock on the door. If they're so damn involved to where they can risk their lives for the name of the law, then send them up bulletproof, put them in some kind of night armor or whatever, and let them knock on the door and ask the questions first. But no one's going to expect me, when they come busting in on my door with guns drawn and pointed in the air, and someone fires me, that I'm going to lay down and die for anybody. That just ain't going to happen in this country. You see this here? Hey, this is my family. It may not be like your family. You know, it may not be like your family. This one here, you know, he's my family too, right, Joseph?
Yeah.
Tell him, you know, look in that camera and tell him what you think about it. Who's treated you good?
David.
You know, do you mind that, son? Huh? Do you love Joseph? Your best buddies?
Yeah. Yeah.
You too, Damon? So, you know, you guys, you do it your way, I do it my way. You got to argue with me, you catch me on the side of the road somewhere, you come and argue with me. You come point guns in the direction of my wives and my kids, damn it, I'll meet you at the door any time. And I'm sorry some of you guys got shot. But, hey, God will have to sort that out, won't he?
And what brings you all the way from England, a nice, lovely home of which I've seen and been in, what brings you to America, to a place called Waco, Texas, or Waco, Texas? Anybody want to speak first?
I've always wanted to know, to understand the Bible, and I wanted to know about the seven seals. And I met somebody who can show me the seven seals. I asked my pastors, my ministers. I was a former Seventh-day Adventist. Nobody could show me. And now I've found what I've been looking for.
The FBI chose to not follow through on their deal because they felt that the video would garner public support.
Yeah,
At
no
this
kidding.
point, with a week and a half under their belts and no development, infighting arose in the FBI. The negotiators said that they were talking to David as well as other members of the facility and that it takes time to get progress this way. And the HRT team said that that was too slow and that they need to speed it up. So the HRT began what I can only describe as psychological warfare. They started taking their tanks and just running over the Davidians' cars that were parked out front. And then through the night, they would shine spotlights at the building and play disturbing noises on loudspeakers. Like they would play variations of old music to the sounds of rabbits being murdered, and at one point, literally dolphin noises.
Yes, right here.
Mr. Ricks, is there a consideration to use psychological warfare? Have you discussed it at all?
I don't know what psychological warfare is.
This, it was
You sure?
in the paper that you play loud music, keep bright lights on the compound all night to try to agitate.
You know that stuff
the
we all
entire
saw
group.
and
Is that a
heard?
possibility?
We will not discuss tactics of that sort, but I would say the chances are minimal.
That's what I love about this. This DSP tech.
Of course.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and everyone thinks you're stupid.
Copyright strikes? What are those?
Huh?
Doing that type of activity. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a SpongeBob episode over there.
Yeah. They got audio of Cat.
Cat, relax. The FBI won't kill us.
Day 7 finds reporters facing a banner reading, "God help us, we want the press." Reporters respond with a statement of their own.
God help us, we are the press.
Also, as the tanks were running over the cars, they kept running over the bodies of the people who were previously buried. And they just kept, like, doing it, backing back and forth, just to, I don't know, make them sad.
Desecrating the
And even if
graves of
you're
the
a staunch
religious
believer
group is
in
a
the
good way to
idea
get them on your
that
side.
the government's actions were justified,
Now, what about those
Koresh
crimes?
needed to be stopped by any means necessary, and I'm not even disagreeing with you on the idea that Koresh needed to be stopped. However, what purpose does the whole playing dolphin noises serve?
Look,
if their
you'll
concern
understand once
is
it all
that
comes
this guy
together.
is some crazy Jim Jones type who's going to kill everyone before he comes out of there, then what does playing sounds of rabbits being murdered accomplish? All you're doing is making someone who you claim to be unstable more sleep deprived and unstable.
FBI push David or the rest of us to the limit. Did they want to create an incident? Did they want us to come out, crazy and start shooting so that they'd have an excuse to gun us down? We didn't know.
We realize that you have the ability, and it's not below you people to do something like to erase all evidences. Why do you have the press so far back? You can give me any kind of crap you want. I know, you know. The reason we're not talking to the press is you people have got to cover your butts from what you did, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
At this point, they cut all power and water lines into Mount Carmel. And while the Davidians
I think we
had
can
water
watch the
tanks
funny
to ensure-
videos now.
Before we go to the funny videos, I want to hear your summation and thoughts on the Waco events.
I mean, so David Koresh wasn't exactly a good guy. I mean, you could make some pretty strong arguments that he was a bad guy. But the people that were supposed to be the good guys didn't do anything to help the situation. Actually, they did a lot to make it much worse.
We'll get to you in a second, sir.
But yeah, like it could have been handled like they said, they should have just arrested him and talked to him when he was maybe not unarmed, but at least less armed.
Yeah.
And not made such a big show of it. Like they really a lot of that could have been avoided. And it's
definitely.
like, yeah, is David Koresh to blame? Like, yeah, of course he is. But like also the people that were there to protect the kids played a hand in their death too. So yeah, they nobody was really good in all of that. And then, I mean, not that they could know this at the time, but it led to even more tragedy. Like the Oklahoma City bombing. And yeah, it's just no good. And their goal was to make the ATF look good, and it's probably the thing that makes the ATF look the worst. Because more people have sympathy for Waco than they do for Ruby Ridge, I would think.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I definitely think that it's, well, I mentioned it earlier, that it's kind of this weird DSP energy that permeates the entire event. Where, and I don't say that to be funny, it's more that, DSP does represent the absolute height of the dumbest decision you could make at any decision or any point. And to be completely oblivious of your stupidity, and furthermore, while pretending like you're oblivious, try and deny it.
Yeah, DSP style damage control took place. Yeah.
And it's very insulting. Just as Darkside Phil insults all of our intelligence, that insults my intelligence. Are you guys using psychological warfare? What's psychological? What? I have no idea what this guy's talking about.
Do you have a specific stream where that happened?
That was 1 million years ago, dude. Like no one in chat knows what you're talking about, and everyone's laughing at you. Stupid, man. That does not inspire confidence. It insults me.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the most tragic tales of American history, as well as possibly world history. I don't know. I'm sure there's some things that
it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And pretty avoidable too, I would say.
It was extremely avoidable.
And the same can be said for Ruby Ridge. Like that could have been avoided probably.
Yes.
Probably. You can't say for sure, but like I think there's a pretty good chance that it could have been handled better.
Yeah.
And now we're going to Tourette's guy making a video response. He thought he was going to be on Wheel of Fortune, but then he was bumped off the list. So this is his video response that I'm sure Pat Sajak and Vanna White watched.
I hope so. It's kind of like I hope
so too.
I hope Twitch watched
really
DSP
funny.
videos.
Yeah.
All right, so they got the VHS and they plugged it in. This is what they saw.
You guys really pissed me off. I told my family was getting me on. Shit! I just don't give a shit. I won't Wheel of Fortune anymore. First see Vanna White in person, I'll call her a bitch.
Oh God.
I'll tie Pat Sajak to the telephone pole and let the UPS guy butt fuck him.
Goodness gracious.
Yep. That's one of my personal favorites from the Tourette's guy.
That's good stuff. And this one is a Tourette's guy Comcast.
So he's calling the cable company to complain about being lied to about his introductory rates. And hopefully they watch this one too.
I was told I was gonna have showtime free for the first 3 damn months. I was charged the second goddamn fucking month in a row.
I do feel this anger sometimes.
Bastards.
Yep.
What the bull fucking hell? There's a franchise fee of $4.62 damn cents. I am pissed. If I don't get a full refund, I'm gonna take it to small claims court and take my business to Comcast. And once you see my dick, you won't want
it. Once you see my dick, you won't
take my
want
business to Comcast. And once you see my dick, you won't want it.
Dude, that is an epic ass line. That is cool.
I love this guy.
So I've got some questions about this dude. We'll get into it more in another episode.
Yeah, sure.
What's with the neck brace?
I believe he hurt his neck in a car accident that may or may not have involved drunk driving.
Oh, okay.
More than likely. And I know he went to jail, and I think it was for the drunk driving. I think that's why he was like in trouble and wearing a neck brace.
Oh man,
yeah, and what in the bull fucking hell is a great. I use that one sometimes.
That's good. Once you like my dick,
you fucking hell is this? Yeah, once you see my dick, you won't want it.
DSP should watch this on DSP Reacts.
Yeah, right. I hope
something
not,
funny.
Though.
I don't think so. And this is
They'll
what
just
is
be
this?
like, yeah, this isn't real. So this was a dude who was the mayor of Philly, and I don't know why this came out when I was living in Philly, but like there was a bunch of shit. Oh, they took down a statue of him, and he was a very like aggressive, old school style cop. And this is someone interviewing him like after he wasn't a cop anymore, I believe. They were like outside his house with surveillance shit, like trying to interview him, and he has some things to say to the reporters.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
And it's very funny, the shit he says. I don't know if he was like I think he did reduce crime in Philly, but like his methods were very crude. So there's a reason people didn't like him. Like, which you'll see from how he handles the reporters.
We wanted to know exactly what was going on up here, so last Monday we rented a van, covered up all the windows, and placed I-Team cameraman Greg Meyer inside that van with his video camera. At about 9:30 in the morning, we parked it right here, sitting just down the street from Mr. Rizzo's house.
All right.
It should be noted that the van was parked on a public street in broad daylight. At no time did any of our people go on Mr. Rizzo's property. What you're looking at is what cameraman Meyer saw through the lens of the hidden I-Team camera that morning. Not much happened for about 3 hours. And then around noon, several police officers became suspicious of our vehicle. If you look closely, you can see some of them in the van's rear view mirror. Now, in just a moment, we'll show you the unedited tape of exactly what happened when one of our I-Team members opened the truck door. But before we do, we want you to know that when the door was open, cameraman Meyer immediately handed over this official Philadelphia police press pass in order to clearly identify himself to everybody on the scene. Okay. And also remember, as you watch this, that Frank Rizzo is not a member of the Philadelphia Police Department, and this is supposed to be an official police matter. Here we go.
Oh man, this is going to be fun.
Pretty fun.
All right. Wait a minute. Let him identify himself. That's enough. What do you mean that's enough? We want to know who you are.
Who are you, sir? Can I have some identification?
Identification.
Come on out.
I'll get my goons to kick your ass.
Yeah.
You don't come out holding your hands up like that. You'll get.
This is the most donut eating corrupt police officer in a movie you've ever seen. This guy gets your wallet to, he takes your ID and then he throws it. Oh no!
Yep.
You not driving with any identification.
Don't have any ID, huh?
Oh, that's too bad. I'm gonna have to run you in, buddy.
Up, boys.
Trouble. We want to know who you are and what you're doing up here.
A lot of empty Pringle cans in there.
Who is he? I thought it was somebody up here to hurt somebody.
This dude's like the mean version of my
We're up here for security.
Mean version of your grandpa?
He talks like him, but like my grandpa was a very well-liked character. This dude seems very rude.
And this is the Rizzo guy.
Yeah, he was the former mayor.
So I'm going to get a window into your grandpa here. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Would have been a lot easier to stop and tell us you're here. We don't know. He's saying you have a dog in here, right?
You're a bunch of...
We could have shot you or something. We don't know.
Take that thing out. Unhook it. Or I'll throw it out in the middle of the goddamn street. You turn that off. It's on. It's on. Well, it won't be on long. It won't be on long. It's still on. Let me tell you something. I've been around a long time. And I just can't understand. It's all right. I'll pull another whack. Get out of here.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing wrong with your TV set.
Oh.
It's just that Mr. Rizzo finally broke our equipment.
Damn.
Last Friday, I asked Police Commissioner Morton Solomon about this incident. And Mayor Rizzo, the former mayor of Philadelphia, after our cameraman had properly identified himself and the police officer at the scene read aloud Philadelphia press pass, Mayor Rizzo, holding the press pass in one hand, reached inside this truck, which we feel he had no right to do, sir, and ripped out the cables off of our recorder and damaged the camera and the cables and the recorder. You've never heard of this before? No one has informed you of this?
Actually, I have another.
Well, that's in fact is what happened. And 5 members of your department, sir, stood by and not only did nothing and took orders from the mayor, who was apparently in charge of this operation, but they were smiling and laughing at the same time.
I would like you to present these facts to our internal affair, and we'll be happy to investigate it and consult with the DA about the possible charges.
Yesterday, while openly videotaping on Krefeld Street, we ran into Mr. Rizzo and tried to ask him about his actions last Monday.
Okay, time for part 2 then.
From Channel 3 News.
Yep.
Could we,
this is the good
fine,
part.
Sir, how are you?
Good.
Could we talk with you for just a moment?
No, I'm busy.
You couldn't answer any of our questions?
I wouldn't talk to you under any condition.
Why is that, sir?
Forget it. Scram. Get out of here.
Sir, I understand
now,
that
look,
these...
Get away from me. I'm now a private citizen.
Yes,
you
sir.
Get away from me.
We're allowed to be on the street, sir.
I don't want to talk to you. Get away from me.
Oh, it's a First Amendment audit.
Get away from me or I'm going to throw you out in the middle of the street.
Sir, one more question.
I'm telling you, get away from me.
You were the symbol of law and order in Philadelphia, sir, for many years. People looked up to you and respected you.
Look, creep, get out of here.
How could you justify your actions at our cameras last Monday in front of your house?
Get out. You're a creep.
We're a member of the media. We'd like to have an answer to our question.
Holy shit.
Why did you attack our cameras, sir?
Get it all. Don't miss any of it. You're a creep.
Hold on 1 second.
Get away from me.
What? Huh? What?
Would you answer the question?
You know, you hide behind that press card.
I'm not hiding behind anything, sir. I just wanted to get some answers.
I'll tell you what to do. There's a gang of yous here. There's enough of you here. By myself, I'll take yous physically.
Holy shit, this dude's a beast.
Well, get away from me.
Well, sir, I'm on the public street. I should be authorized to be here.
Mustache cop.
I'll break it over your head. I'll break it over your head. Get away from me, you crumb. That's a challenge, except I'll put my dog away, and I'll come back.
Yeah, hold on. Give me 10 minutes.
3, and I'll do it alone with you. In that back of that fence. Just the 3 of us, 4 of us, me and you.
Man, it's not every day you get invited to a fist fight with the former mayor.
Okay? You're a crumb creep. And I wouldn't take that off for nobody. There's 3 of you, and I'm by myself. And when it's over, there'll be nothing to it. Win or lose, okay? But you don't have the courage.
That's what happens when LTG is mayor.
A crumb bum.
You're a crumb bum, the 3 of you, and I challenge you.
You're a crumb
coward.
bum.
You're a yellow sneak. And if you want to, now what I say, let's forget all the rules of this great country we live in. I will go back to that wall with the 3 of you. Just me.
Holy shit, this guy's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You can't take.
I mean, he's human garbage with this kind of behavior.
We're not here to
But
fight. We're here to get some answers to some questions. That's all.
I want to fight you.
yeah,
Why is
let's
that?
do it.
Because you're a crumb creep, lush coward.
You don't even know me, Mayor.
You are a lush. I can tell by looking at you. I was a cop all my life, and I know a lush when I see one. And you're a lush. You're going to have a hell of a story on that one. Play every word of it, crumb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's like in Unforgivable. He's like, is there a problem? I said, use a bitch and I'm ain't, and I want to whoop your ass. It's that. It's like, you're a crumb bum. I'll take you off physically.
Man,
I think that's it for that one.
I want to hear his cope.
This afternoon, Channel 3 station manager Bill Aber signed this official complaint with the police department against the officers who stood by and, as you saw, did literally nothing to restrain Mr. Rizzo from damaging our equipment. As you heard Police Commissioner Solomon say just a moment ago, any other charges will be up to him and the district attorney, Ed Rendell. One of the unfortunate aspects of all of this is that we have become the focus of this story. When it all started, we just wanted to know if your tax dollars were being properly spent for the continuing use of security guards for Mr. Rizzo. We still don't have the answer to that question.
Yeah.
We do know, however, that
Paid
12
full.
hours after our initial encounter with Rizzo, all police officers were pulled off the house. Commissioner Solomon insists that the timing was purely coincidental.
Yeah.
A personal note now, if you will. When I walked over to the former mayor on the street yesterday, I was not looking for an invitation to duke it out, and I most certainly did not expect to be maligned and called a lush by Mr. Rizzo. All I wanted were some simple answers to some simple questions, and you saw what happened. By the way, we decided to play the entire interview with Mr.
Yeah,
Rizzo
this is crumb bum energy. I'm not listening to some crumb
of
bum.
tampering with the tape to show us in a better light or him in a less favorable light. You saw it exactly the way it went down, no more, no less.
I mean,
as far as Rizzo's charge that I have a drinking problem, I won't even dignify that with any answer.
I kind of like this dude, though. He handled it very well.
The whole thing is just fun. We were calling each other crumb bums for like weeks after we saw this.
No, that's good stuff.
You're a crumb bum. You're a lush. I know a lush when I see one.
Oh, man. It's kind of the opposite of the Waco situation where you had 2 retards kind of fighting it out. Here you got 2 heroes fighting it out. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because this guy was hitting him with it too. He had some.
Yeah.
That was good.
It was a different time.
That was beautiful. Is Rizzo's like DSP for now we got to do man, once I get time to do this, and by that I mean retired, I'm just going to make DSP versions of these kind of events. We'll play this footage and have DSP dubbed over it.
You're a crumb bum, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Definitely fantastic.
And then I sent you one last video that's
Okay.
just a comedy sketch.
All right, it's a comedy sketch. And before we get started, I want to say thank you, everyone, for stopping by and joining us for this brief discussion about Waco and the political and social and historical implications of it as well. We will. I think we're going to take a break for the rest of December, just because holidays and what have you. And we'll be back in January, and I'll have something lined up for us. I'll think of something pretty interesting. I definitely want to go over Yandere Dev. Yandere Dev's a very interesting story. It's kind of this weird story of a guy who had some pretty interesting potential and then immediately pissed it down the drain.
Okay.
Yeah. And he is a complete buffoon.
Yeah. All right.
The breakfast burrito the DSP was talking about. 17 years ago. Holy crap. Crazy to think that YouTube's so old.
Yeah.
So what time's the interview? 9 sharp. You excited?
I'm a crumb bum.
I'm a little scared. There's no need to be scared. If I can get a job, you can get a job.
Dark Side in a different universe.
Just keep your head up and don't let anybody tell you they're better than you. Because they're not. What is that, a breakfast burrito? Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd start the morning out right. It's got ham in it. You're on your way, Stanley. I told you things were going to turn around, didn't I? One day at a time. One day at a time.
What a hero. Well, get cracking on that burrito. Oh, it's Worski's life story.
Yep.
Man, he's ready for that interview now. Oh my god. Bro, how many interviews do you have?
I don't know why, but I find this so funny.
That is really funny. Hell yeah, man. Let's do it. Yeah, just dump it all right there. That's good. We don't need to be clean with this. Maybe it's a cocaine interview? Sure looks like it. I think he's about to ace it. What? Why not? Oh, okay, yeah. You spread it across the whole table if you can. Coat the entire thing. Oh my lord. Be cracking. I'm wondering how they made this.
It's gotta be a vacuum.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of flour.
Well, you finished it all. The plate is cleaned. No, cocaine fight, huh?
Yo!
Trombone. I was hoping that it was going to be a sofa-sized bag of coke.
Just as a bat.
Dude, getting high and beating up pinatas does sound kind of fun.
Basking in it.
It's like those vampires in Blade.
Yes.
Shit, we never did go to our interview.
Yep.
Hey Nick, I left my lunch in the fridge. I'm gonna get it.
They did all that in like
Forget about that
1
job.
minute.
No. It's almost 8:45. No. All right, I'll see you.
Oh, we still got the whole day ahead of us then. Now, let's polish off that pinata.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's gonna be full of coke. That's good stuff. These guys are funny.
17 years ago. I didn't notice that the first time I saw it.
I want to see it. Like, have these guys made anything in recent memory? 1 year ago. So these guys are still doing stuff. I want to see this real quick.
Okay.
Because all of your leisure wear is at the dry cleaners.
No.
I kind of like that it's still rather muted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like. I don't think they are British, but it's British style.
Yeah. They had a couple of years there where they weren't making any content. Well, dang, that's cool.
Know.
Thank you for showing me that.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it? We did.
I think that's it.
Yeah. That was good. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned a lot here today about Waco. Cocaine for breakfast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, another good one. I think next time we should do a more like lighthearted subject, but
Yes, yes.
We'll figure that out.
We'll find something, and I'll find us something cool to watch. It is almost about time we start going over some of the established locales over again. You know,
like specific Cyrax sagas and
yes.
Or maybe pick a Chris Chan saga.
Yes, Chris Chan sagas. We could throw up our favorite Chris Chan sagas. Which ones?
Yeah, for sure. Actually,
I'm
yeah,
sure
Chris
what my
Chan
favorite
clip
would be.
episode.
But that'd be cool.
I have a couple in mind,
and we have a bunch of fan submissions still that we need to get through. So we'll probably.
Oh, we do?
Well, didn't we do all of them already?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, let me check. And
yeah,
we definitely need to do those.
We definitely want to hit those up.
Yeah, because the one who speaks in hands has he's been giving me a lot of stuff to watch. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
Definitely watch some of that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, watching blind shit is that's another kind of
yes,
like
stuff.
Extra fun. Yeah.
And
I know Scully has some shit for us, and yeah, there's been a couple things. I gotta like track down what people have said to watch because there's some people I've never fucking heard of. Have no idea what it is.
And I need to talk to Hum Along if you can't sing along. He has some good dudes, and I'll definitely see about getting him on here soon. And also to you guys, get the word out, tell people about it, and also part of getting the word out is getting interesting, weird videos because you guys might have this weird video that you know about that no one else knows about. Show us. Get us this weird
and
crap.
It doesn't really have to be lolcows either. It could just be funny shit.
Yeah, it's for these kind of moments when we're winding down. Any last words to leave these heroes?
No, thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
It's good to see people actually come and watch this.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm very honored.
Nice.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for tonight, everyone. Have a fantastic night.
Have a good night. Be safe. Have a good Christmas travel or whatever you're doing.
All right. You got any Christmas plans?
I'm going home.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it should be fun.
All right.
Oh yeah, and the what do you call it? The Too High Going Green.
Yes.
Coming up.
Yeah. I had said before that I wasn't going to have any guests for December, and it was more like I didn't want to ask anyone, but I asked Imbo because I thought, well, he wants to watch some cool shit. Let me ask him. So yeah, Imbo's going to be on the next Going Green next Friday, and I'll say what we're watching later.
Are you doing anything tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to be restreaming.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
And I'm probably going to be doing the giveaway. I should. The only thing stopping me from doing the giveaway is purely logistics. I can get all the shit, but it's just a matter of that. So I want to give back to the cool community. So.
Right on.
Okay, we're done. We're out of here.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.